where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural, from the silly where we come together to talk about today. I think political and cultural, fairly from serious topic. I wanted to talk about populism. Okay, that's something that I think is rising, where we come together politics to talk about issues for a while, political and cultural. And I got some thoughts, and I wanted to kind of bring some folks together from various backgrounds to talk about it. And so I want to thank all of my guests here for joining me, and we're gonna get to it. I'll give you each chance to introduce yourself, give some opening thoughts on what you think populism is, what we should do about it, whether it's good or bad, ugly, what, and we'll just get to it. Let's start with Gibbs. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm Admiral Gibbs. You can find me everywhere as Admiral Gibbs. Excuse me one second here. Yeah, so apologize for that. Yeah, so basically with populism, it comes around every so often. Usually, I feel like, especially in American politics, it arrives when it's like a north-south transition as opposed to a left-right, where people feel like disenchanted with the current system, and we get people like, William J. Bryan back in the day. We've had Theodore Roosevelt. Now we got Donald Trump. I think Bernie Sanders was a left-wing answer to what Trump is now on the right-wing side. So we have this every so often, and I think it can be good and bad at the same time. The reason why populism even exists is because it feels like people feel like they're being disenfranchised, and they're trying to get something done about it. And I think that's the case here. Trump has been put in office via populism, and now there's seeing some changes. Whether that's good or bad, I'm sure we'll get into the debate.
Beautiful. Glad to be here. Glad to have you here, I should say. We'll get into it as we go. Ice Beans, what are your thoughts?
Hello, everybody. My name is Ice Beans, and I would say that there are a lot of criticisms that can be levied against populism, and I certainly am one of those people that can levy those criticisms. But I will say that I can see there being a utility for populism, especially if it falls under some pretty strict guidelines, in my opinion. I think that regardless of what we think, whether we think that it's bad or it's good, it is a force that needs to be reckoned with and hopefully could be harnessed. And we have to deal with it, basically, whether we like it or not. And so I would rather utilize it for my own ends than to just kind of let it flow in the wind and have everything happen to me.
Yes, we can use the ring to save Gondor. But thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Joe Lewis.
All right, Gollum, chill.
You're okay. Joe, what's up, brother? Oh, you're muted. Give him a second, King.
There you go. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Cool. Yeah, I'm Joe Lewis. People know who I am. Joe Lewis with 2 O's on most socials. So when I think about populism, it fundamentally gets one thing right for me, which is politics requires conflict. There's no democracy without an us and a them. The idea that society can become a purely consensus-driven, purely technocratic, or purely neutral is unrealistic to me. Political struggle is permanent because people have different interests, identities, and visions for a society. And I think populism also makes a critical mistake when it treats the people as though it is a stable, permanent category. In a robust society, the us and them is always dependent on the issue, the context and the material conditions that people are living through. The common people are not one unified political identity, nor should we want them to be. And for me, democracy should be understood less as procedure and more as governance. So the idea of like an ongoing activity of maintaining, cultivating, and improving the realities of people. That also changes how we think about leadership and antagonism. Political opponents are not enemies that must be destroyed, but contextual adversaries engaged through discourse, struggle, and debate. And finally, it might come up later, but I'll just preempt it now. Populism doesn't become, and it is not popularism. So just because something is popular or reflects majority sentiment does not automatically make it good, just, or socially beneficial. The role of politics is not simply, to mirror public desire, but to govern responsibility within a pluralistic and constantly changing society.
Okay. Thank you for being here, and we'll get into it as we go. Tolly, go ahead. It's been a while. Nice to see you, Tolly, by the way.
Great to see you, Wick. Thanks for having me. I am Tollybots, former co-host with Wick TV here at Tollybots on Twitter, and I stream a couple times a week with Kay, a mod in this chat at Morally Neutral. So check us out over there. I think, like Ice Beans said, whether we like it or not, populist messaging is here right now with force. And so I do think we're going to need to make the best of it. I think it's understandable how political messaging, populist rhetoric is a useful tool. However, I think ultimately populism is destructive on a number of counts. Number one, it's a lie. It's almost never so simple and true that it is, that all of these elites are kind of working together to hold the regular person down. I think it inclines people towards learned helplessness. I think it just fuels grievances that lead very quickly into conspiracy theory. And so while I really see our political divide right now as kind of a fight between the populism and accelerationists and the kind of moderate, classically liberal institutionalists. And I'm rooting for the institutionalists in this battle long term.
Okay, well, thank you for your support, and I'm glad to have it. Glad to have you here. Last but certainly not least, and at least until Dev finishes up whatever he's doing, Soypill, go ahead.
Yeah, I actually agree with what a lot of people were saying here. I mean, populism unfortunately does tend to fall in this category of thought-terminating cliches. You'll have, well, here's the bad guys, here's the out group. Everything can be just simply defined into this box, and we're the good guys, and they have the bad policies. And so long as we defeat them, then everything will be good. It is usually not that simple. Sometimes it is. And populism does kind of capitalize on a lot of good policy and good ideas, and sometimes that gets mixed in with the bad stuff. So I'm kind of with Ice Beans, where it's going to get worse. People are going to get more frustrated. The quality of living is going to go down. The wealth disparity is going to go up, and populism is going to get more popular. And they're going to be capitalizing on real issues that are affecting everyone. And I think so long as we are able to take what the actual grievances are and point them in the right direction, and make sure we're having nuanced conversations about, hey, like this billionaire or that billionaire, or like what actually is the systemic problem going on here, and not just, hey, if we just defeat Wall Street, then everything will be good for us, then I think it's totally fine. And I just want to make sure that there isn't this, rise of completely uninformed and silly, just let's go do good things movement that is unfortunately never going to work, and will probably disillusion people more once they realize that they can't just simply solve every world problem. But yeah, I'm bullish on populism as long as we use it well.
See, this is why I wanted to have this conversation, and I appreciate y'all being here. And Devil come when he comes. But I guess for me,
she said.
That is what she said. For me, populism is not really an ideology at all, right? Or it's barely one. It's more of like a rhetorical way of politicking, where you create different groups and say, these are us, those are them. And if the us succeeds, the people, the real people, then we will defeat the them. And it doesn't really actually do anything or fix anything. Does anyone disagree with that kind of framing of what populism is? That's my understanding of populism.
I think that.
I mean, like, for the last part.
Oh, go.
I think it's like super important before we move on to really like clearly, because we all said a bunch like different variations of kind of similar stuff and some deviations, right? So I'm just gonna like lay this out, and then maybe as people disagree, and it's a good place to start. Like, I think populism is just a stance. It's just an idea of an us versus them, which can manifest in a variety of different ways. It can mean the common person versus the elite. It could mean the American versus the immigrant. It could mean the worker versus the boss. Like, this idea of us versus them is the stance. And then that us versus them can mean a bunch of different things in political context.
Well,
What Joe's saying,
also,
what
Joe,
Joe's
just to-
saying,
Go ahead, Soy. Then I.
Well, I just want to say, like, just to be more specific, like, there's lots of us versus them. You can have like populist fascism, but fascism isn't necessarily populist. So the idea of populism, I think, just to narrow down your definition of what you're trying to get at here, it's usually common people. Like, this is what everyone wants, versus like, oh, the elites don't have your interest, the government doesn't have your interest, the establishment doesn't have your interest, right? Like, that's sort of what you would narrow it down to, or.
I'm saying I mean, if there's a consensus there, we can use that as the floor. But if there's not, then we're going to be kind of stuck.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree, and to kind of simplify it for Wick, because I see you being confused. It's more of like.
Hold on. I'm not confused.
Wick, you're very confused.
I gotta get.
He doesn't know what he's doing.
Not yet.
I gotta get the Wick.
You might get confused later.
Frankly, he's the most confused guy.
I do get confused, right? But
I see it as a tool that could be used, or could be like essentially taken advantage of. I don't necessarily see populism making any claims as to like whether its whether its policies are sound, or whether this person will actually be a good governance when they actually get elected. It doesn't make any claims in that regard, at least not to me. So that's kind of how I see it.
It's making claims insofar as like populists believe
promises.
that.
It's
sure,
yeah,
that.
But like you can say that Trump, for example, is a great populist. Is he a good governance? That is a different question, right?
Well,
like, is he?
I don't think the two need to be.
Yeah, I want to.
That's what I'm saying is that the concept doesn't.
I want to. Hold on. We gotta narrow it down a little bit. I want to hear from Tali if you're finished. Then I want to hear from Gibbs a little bit, and then if Joe's satisfied with everyone's kind of definition here, we can move on.
Yeah, I mean, good governance. I don't think is.
Oh, I'll finish up, Tali. Then give it to Gibbs.
Okay, yeah, good governance. I don't think is like it's not a success is not a requirement for any type of political ideology or framework. I think populism is maybe more of a framework than just a rhetorical tool. Although people, I think, use it. Maybe cynically use the language of populism as a political tool, but it really is a framework of viewing the world. It is us against them, and so populists feel certain that they are on the right side of that. And I think maybe part of to what you're saying, Ice Beans, is like I think a problem inherent in populism, and you're seeing this with the backlash against Donald Trump, is that once you get elected and get power, then you become part of the elite, whether that is in ways that are true or imagined, and so you lose the support of the people, and it feels like a witch hunt essentially that never ends. And so I think I'm as someone who wasn't as plugged in, in the beginning of the Trump era. I was still on the left at that point and didn't have the same concerns about populism then as I do now. I think we should all be really wary of populism because I think once you let the rat in the house, it's going to be very hard to get it out.
I agree with a lot of what's being said, like probably like 90% of it. The issue is I think there needs to be included some aspect with this us versus them. There needs to be some sort of like like crisis or some kind of like upsetting aspect to this. Like, right. So I'll use beef because I feel like that's one I'm familiar with. Right. I think you could be populist and be like pro rancher, like, oh yeah, all the ranchers do it, and then do something like Trump did where he's like going to go after the meat packers, and then at the same time he wants to appeal to his broader base where he's like, okay, the Texas beef guys, they're gonna have to suffer while I bring in these outside stuff so that my popular base will get it. So you can have like competing populist policy and ideas just within a single movement, because I think it's just like populism is just an answer to a feeling of disenfranchisement, and for the most part from all the sides. That's why it's so nebulous. I think I don't know if y'all agree or disagree.
I think it's clear. Like the reason why I asked this is because it all sounds like we're all saying the same thing, but I want to make sure the floor exists here. There's like a confrontation we can hash that out, because it all sounds like you're saying that populism is a framework of positionally placing one group against another. If we were to just oversimplify that, is that a fair representation of what everything else said?
Well, it could be multiple groups. Like that's why I use beef, right? So like you would say the ranchers would probably go.
I would say that's the base.
Without nuance, is that the floor?
Yeah, that's a fair.
It really is the people and the elite. Like, I don't think
Well,
it
us
really is the
versus
people
them.
in the elite, and
Us
then
versus them.
sure, yeah.
It's just an oversimplification. It's usually elites are involved because otherwise it's like, why not
Yeah.
blacks
But-
versus whites
but I'm
back in the
saying-
40s or whatever, right? Like that's not
Right,
fun.
that's not exactly, and populism.
reason-
A lot of it turns into different groups, right? So in populist movements, you see a sort of nativist sentiment that comes up, especially in right wing populist movements. And so yes, they see the elite as bringing the foreigners in. So it's still the people versus the elite, even though other groups might get stigmatized or
bastion
scapegoated in some way.
$10,
you're
just real
saying.
quick. Just real quick. $10. My chat's weighing in. Okay. The last bastion says populism is just a framing device. Us, the weak, versus them, the powerful. This is why MAGA needs a deep state, something to blame. It doesn't provide a solution, just a boogeyman to be angry at. Thank you for the $10.
Yeah, the reason why I say us versus them, and then there's like different delineations of that, is because I think that's just a natural occurrence in society, right? So if you have a capitalist, you're going to have an anti-capitalist. A capitalist cannot exist by itself as a fixed point in history. It's in
but Joe-
relation with everything else around it. Like,
But
you
Joe, there
can't
has to be
have-
more to it than
Mhm,
that. Otherwise,
mhm.
everything's populism. So I
Right,
do
right.
think the
No.
idea.
I'm saying that like you're close. It's wrong, but close. Like to have you, what makes you is everything else that isn't you. So for instance, I'm a communitarian. I'm a communitarian because of the things that don't make me communitarian. Both are important, very important. So a capitalist is a capitalist not only because of how they define themselves, but how it's in relationship with everybody else. So the us versus them in terms of like populism and conflict is going to grow in different ways, right? Like when Gibbs was talking about beef, there's going to be people who are in support of beef cultivation or whatever sort of farming adjacent thing is. Like we'll say weed to oversimplify it. Like there are people who are pro cultivation of weed farmers, like pro weed farmers. The pro weed farmer must also have the anti-weed farmer. Those two groups.
I don't
will
think that's really
emerge.
populism. The beef thing makes sort
We
of
agree
sense in
that
the
the
way that
floor is us
Gibbs
versus
is saying
them.
it, because
No, we didn't actually.
sure, but like the
agree on that.
history of
Well, I mean,
populism
doesn't.
is like farmers movements and unions. So all of that like is actually in the historical record, that in the depending on which sources you're looking at, that is the history of
Sure.
populism, certainly in America. But it is not just like
I'll give
people
you
who are
a-
interested
sure.
in cultivating this new.
I'll give
new
you
Yeah.
guys a
domain.
great example, just
That
real quick. I
engagement
got
thing
a
I
great
said,
example of how this like framework needs more nuance. Ukraine versus Russia is an us
Mhm.
versus them, but it is
Yes.
not a populist struggle. No one would call
Mhm.
that issue.
It's agonism. It's an antagonist struggle.
Yeah,
I'd agree
no
with
one
you.
would call that a populism, right? Though you could have people who support Russia or support Ukraine use populist rhetoric to drive people towards their issue. A good example would be someone who says the elites are trying to fund these foreign wars by sending our money that could be
Mhm.
used to help the people, the real Americans, help get us hospitals, schools, education, etc. But instead, those
Programs.
elites are sending it to Ukraine to battle Russia. On the other
My-
hand, you could say the elites are in bed with Russia, while the real Americans are pro-Ukraine, who stand in solidarity with the struggle of their brothers and sisters over there. And therefore, the elites are the ones that are in bed with Russia. And therefore, the populist position is to support Ukraine. Like, it's a framing structure, and you can
Mhm.
kind of use that style of rhetoric towards almost
The groups-
anything.
The
But
groups still
again,
exist.
I
Not to
don't
cut
think
you
it
off.
makes
But we
the
should.
I do-
But it actually is. Hold on, it is
I
more
had a-
specific though. Like it's a nebulous enough term, but it is more specific than Joe's saying. Because in the example that you used, Wick, the populists on the left and right did get together, and their opinion was that it is our elite spending money on Ukraine when we don't care about that. And it's so far away, and there's people at home that we should be helping. So they did coalesce around a similar message. It's the populists on the left and the right who were, whether explicitly pro-Russia or not, were anti-Ukraine. And I mean, still are.
push
And
I
here-
also want to
I'm
point
sorry.
out. I
Sorry,
also want to like.
Hold on. I want Joe to finish his thought.
Yeah, my push here, which is why I want to move beyond the idea of elites versus the common person, which I thought people listened to when I said in my opening statement, is that these two groups, while they exist, they are not fixed points in reality. There's not a fixed pro-Ukrainian. There's not a fixed pro-Russian. these groups emerge, and different types of ideologies and philosophies of thought are going to come in and out of those groups depending on the context of the situation.
Okay, but this is okay. I absolutely, Joe. I absolutely 100% agree with you. In fact, I've had this debate on Wix server about what is a conservative. I said a conservative in Athens would be different than a conservative in United States. I agree with you 100%. It's all relative. Here's my issue. I really want to talk about what Ice Beans and Soy brought up, which is like the tool aspect of this, and whether or not it should be tapped into, whether it's a good thing. I think that like whether or not people want to tap into it, it's going to be tapped into because it's so like people are having a visceral response to some like you said, antagonistic, whether it's the elites, whether it's a perceived elite. And I feel like right now there's a very large group of discontent people that are the average American. And that's why we're seeing such a rise in populism. And with like, what should we do about it? Right? Like I kind of think that's where I would like to take this. I don't know about y'all.
I mean, it's one of the limitations of liberal democracies. I mean, Wick has a lot of reservations about Lacan move here, and I don't want to get too deep in the weeds here. But in society, especially in America, the question is, how do we deal with conflict? How do we deal with people who have views that are irreconcilable? What does it mean to work with somebody with conflicting ideologies or even just stances on things? Which is why, for me, I always argue that these different groups that we find ourselves in against another are contextual. Like if there's a situation where I believe that my interests are also contained in what Gibbs cares about, then I'll gladly work with him without reservation. If there's something that's to go all the way to the extreme, not to invoke this person, but he's been dodging me for over a year. Like if there's something that like Hutch and I have aligned interest on, I'll gladly work with him without reservation. My ideology is what keeps me principled, but we'll have different interests and context. And just because somebody's of X ideology doesn't mean I cannot work with them. Just because somebody's a liberal.
We're still talking about populism? I feel like you're just talking about like political pragmatism, maybe like.
I think we should let Joe talk for an hour and a half and just like let him define every word and then like never get to a conversation. I'll be really happy.
Well, okay, Soy, what you seem to have an issue with what Joe was saying earlier. Like what would be your definition then there? Or
I already said it, but I don't want to be stuck on this, please, for the love of God.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I do want to move on. What you want to move on.
I want to move forward. I want to get to the rest of the show because I guess I'll try this. I think that populist rhetoric is not a tool that we should use, even if it might help us in certain elections or in certain areas. And my thesis here is because it creates a situation where in order to succeed, you have to undermine in a very real way the institutions that exist in America.
Good.
No, that is not good. One of the major problems we're having in America is a deep distrust in institutions. That's why so many people refuse to get a COVID vaccine, right?
But you can admit that those institutions don't work for everybody in the same ways, right? Equality within the institutions don't exist. Okay,
there is a
so
difference.
If inequality does not exist within the institutions, what should we do when those inequalities arise? Because there are plenty of people, for instance, who have totally fine relationships with the healthcare system. That is a valid reality. But there are also people who don't have good relationships with the healthcare institution. That's a valid reality.
So it depends on what kind of equality you're talking about, because some inequalities are good, right? Like it really depends what you're talking about here.
Like inequality is
and
fine
or inevitable
until it's against inequalities are fine until it's against something, right? Like inequality of genders exists across all societies in the world. That doesn't mean they're unjust.
Well, yeah, I want to capitalize on what you're saying here, Joe, because I was going hard on you earlier. But you're right to say, like, no, populism isn't just inherently bad because you can capitalize on the idea of, hey, this institution is not working for a majority of people, and you can use that rhetoric to try to foment change, right? So if I just say healthcare is bad and we need to overhaul it, yeah, that's a little thought terminating. But if you can look at the American healthcare system and realize that it is not working the way we want it to, and capitalize off of this injustice that is a popular feeling of inadequacy, most people like their healthcare insofar as like, oh, well, maybe I don't want to change because it's kind of working out for me. But ultimately, we know there's a better option, and most people want that better option. And being able to capitalize on that, that would be populism, saying, look, this institution is not working very well for most people. It could be a lot better. Let's push it to where it could be, right? That's fine.
but that's not populism.
That's populism.
I disagree. Populism would be like, let's take the healthcare issue. Populism
you see
wouldn't
why I
be.
asked this. So
Right.
No, it's important, but yeah, that's why you just get Wick to disagree and then fight him on it.
Explain.
Yeah,
Populism
that's
isn't
why I asked
just
about the floor, because if we can't figure out what the floor is, like I thought we
let
understood the floor was
me
us versus
let me
them,
explain
not
why I
real
don't think that's
populism, right?
populism.
Like,
You
it's
can
crony
disagree,
populism.
right? Saying a specific institution such as healthcare is not working and we need to reform it is not populist. When you say healthcare isn't working because those evil insurance companies are pushing you down and the real working American has to suffer because those elites in Washington are setting up the healthcare system to benefit the rich and hurt the poor. That's populism.
So those
Wait, very important question. Very important.
And a bad version, and then you said, well, the good version is something I don't think is populism. Therefore,
so let me try to add
very important
different
question.
things.
I have a very important
Also, hello
question.
everyone. How's it going?
Welcome.
Hello.
You're late, so you don't get an intro.
Oh, sorry. I was still watching you, even though it was late. Sorry. I know what's going on.
Wick, do you think that FDR was a populist?
FDR specifically, I'd have to go back. I'm sure that he probably engaged in some populist rhetoric. Whether he was a populist or not, I just don't know. I don't know enough about the specifics of FDR to make a real big claim on that. But what I'm saying is to kind of to go to Soy Pill's point here is you can tackle problems within institutions and not be a populist, but it's the way you do it and the way you set up the framing that makes it populist.
Sure.
So what's that framing?
I agree. Yeah, wait. I think that actually.
But go ahead, Tom.
That distinction was important. I think, like to Soy, where you took issue with what Wick just said. His point is like, yes, you could have the large majority of the populace believing that there is something broken in our healthcare system, and moving to reform it is not inherently populist just because.
Sure, but the populist part of it is the idea that the reason, even though a majority of people want this to change, is that there's some other incentive here happening, and whether or not that's the elites and the insurance companies are keeping you down, which is populism. It could also be, hey, there are some like perverse incentive structures here that are causing this not to happen. Either way, I would still call this populism.
Well, I want to piggyback off what I want to.
Wait, but hold on. Sorry, just really quickly. But Soy, I think to the point that you agreed with earlier, the core of populism is that dichotomy and the distinction between the people and the elite. So saying we have some perverse incentive structures, we need to work on the funding and stuff in certain places, that's just governance. That's just democracy. That's not populism unless you are blaming the nefarious forces that are holding people down.
Let Tali finish, and then
I think that is. I think because otherwise, then populist literally just means nothing. Then we are just using it to mean something that is popular. It is
the idea that
is making the
thing that is not happening because of something, whether that be elites or some sort of like it could be like a systemic issue, but that is populism. That's what I'm talking about. It's a popular issue that hasn't changed despite the democracy voting for something that they would otherwise want.
When you are blaming the elites, yes, it's not populist to say again, oh, we tried this thing. It looks like there were a few trade-offs that we need to fix. We need to improve on this. We need to improve the funding here. That's not populism.
Yeah,
otherwise, everything is.
Okay.
Can I piggyback off what Soy Pill's saying?
I know.
Hold on.
Okay, enough. Gibbs, then Dev, then Ice Beans.
I'm not really down
so this is what this like Soy Pill's kind of hitting at, and like is with the system. It doesn't necessarily like have to be the elites. Like that's why it's like the pigeonhole. Like yeah, I know you want to say something's not populism. We can get into like the nuance of what is and what isn't populism. But like I feel like what a lot of people have said here, at least in the United States, I think this is really what I thought we were going to talk about. Is okay, these people have gotten in here. They say the system's inefficient and it's not working for them. And now since they have this movement behind them and they are in power, I feel like to some extent, some people say they're making the system more efficient. Other people are saying they're stepping over the checks and balances. And so, like, I guess what I thought we were going to argue is whether or not this is a good thing. Is sometimes with a system that's designed to be purposely slowed is wiped out and try to be more efficient, or if this is a bad thing. And I thought that's where we were going with this. But it seems like we're doing definition debate instead of talking about the issue.
I agree, Gibbs. I do want to get into the prescription part, but just real quick to clarify, I'm not just saying a bunch of people want to change it, therefore it's populism. The idea is that it doesn't have to be elites. If it's set up in such a way, and you can say, hey, capitalism for-profit healthcare has caused these perverse incentives. That's why, despite everyone wanting this better thing, it doesn't happen, and we need to change something about that. That could be elites maliciously manipulating it, but it could also just be, hey, like the system is set up in such a way that this won't change despite a majority of people wanting it, and we need to, overthrow so many institutions or change this rule. That's still populism because you're capitalizing off this mostly common sentiment and saying there's this issue that's preventing a majority of people from getting what a majority of people want. That's what I'm trying to get at. It's not just change the government.
Can I piggyback on that too? Go for it, Ice. You're good.
I'm waiting for my turn. I was going to say I was going to say, Tali, I think that I think I understand a little bit of the disconnect here. I think there is absolutely ways to say that there's absolutely ways to define this without necessarily invoking a specific idea of an elite. I just looked it up, and with FDR, it was more of the forgotten man against economic royalists, not specifically, right? Not a specific person, but it's
doesn't need to be a specific person. That is still the elite. The economic royalists is the oligarchy of 2026.
If you
want,
it's
the billionaire class. Okay. It's the Epstein class.
I'm just right, and there is very common. I think
you guys are wrong.
I'm just saying that. No, I'm just saying that that's somebody who didn't pin somebody to the wall and say, this class is the problem. It was vague. Economic royalists was vague.
It often is vague.
Forgotten man.
It often yeah,
sure,
well, that's where I think Soypil. That's where I think Soypil was right. Although I think his characterization, I take issue with his characterization. Although I think that is how populists think, which is the obvious will of the people. Obviously, everyone sees that this thing is working incorrectly in this one way. So I think there's this assumption that they speak for the pure, true voice of the people. But I do think that it has to it's not just, again, there are issues in the system. You get closer when you're saying the issue in the system is greedy capitalism, because then even if you're pointing to a system and not a people, you're getting at the greedy capitalists who run that system, right? But I don't think it's enough to say that populism is when a majority of people want something that isn't happening to them for whatever reason. It's not just when the popular will of the people is being subdued in some way. It is pointing at the people who are holding you down, whether that's the political elite or the economic elite. That's what populism is.
In a lot of cases,
I mean, I preempted this in my opening statement that populism is not popularism. Like the idea that just because something is popular or reflects majority sentiment doesn't automatically make it good or socially beneficial. Like democracy works.
Yeah, but I don't think anything that Soya said has contradicted that, right? I think that's
was it that Wick said?
No. I'm saying that I'm saying what Tali was taking issue with, was Soy's specific invoking of the reform and stuff like that, and also. Hey, yeah, but we don't need to react.
I just didn't get the vibe that was what he was saying, which is why I was just kind of confused on that. I think
I want to make sure Dev gets a chance to get in here. I know he's trying to get in here earlier. Go ahead.
Yeah, so basically, when I remember taking political science in university, I mean, the idea of populism, it wasn't just us versus them. It also wasn't just the masses versus the elites. It was institutional knowledge versus common sense or folk knowledge or the knowledge of the masses, right? It's the idea that the elites are corrupt or they're out of touch or they just don't know how to run society, and that the common people inherently know better. And that's why sometimes things that are popular are not necessarily populist, but it's not as broad as us versus them.
Yeah,
it is us versus the elites, though. Dev, didn't you just agree?
Yeah, but it's not sufficient, though.
It's not. Yeah, do you agree that? Are you trying to say, Tali, just to land the plane? Do you think that idea of the people versus the elite is sufficient?
Yes, unless you're to give me some specific example where I could say, oh, okay, well, no, not in this scenario. But yes, I think that is the sentiment. It's the pure, honest people versus the corrupt elite.
After this, I do have a question to move us on.
So are the elite a fixed entity in conflict?
No, but that's not required.
So the elite doesn't need to be a fixed entity in conflict, but the elite must exist. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the elite could be a system. It could be the elite, literally. The elite, it could be stand-in, right? That's what you're Why are we getting so hung up on this?
Right.
Yeah, let's say, look, if the elite can be a system, we can all just agree and move on to the actual
minutes of
that's what I'm saying.
30 minutes of definition mogging. It happens every time.
Okay, but some people are wrong online. Anyway, and I do think it is very important carrying on to kind of
Yeah, if you think that all
what
that's the
is
elite, then I'm cool with that.
but let's move on. Some of you have mentioned that you are willing to use populism. Well, I guess, does anyone here think that populist rhetoric has made our country better? Like in the last
Yes.
10 years or so, where populism's been on the rise, has
Absolutely.
populism made it better? You say yes.
Yep.
Why?
Absolutely not.
Okay,
No.
we have disagreement.
Yeah, I
So
don't know.
go
I don't know about
why you
better.
think it is,
Absolutely.
and then we can hear why.
I would say like it's really short for me that it's how the conflict was engaged with, how the antagonism emerged is why I take issue with. But the conflict itself, I don't think is wrong.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at how healthcare has shifted in the conversation, Bernie's populist rhetoric that started in 2016, I think, has shifted this country in such a good way in terms of making sure the Overton window includes we need to completely overhaul and reform and get some sort of public option here. Where Obama was pushing for one, but the populist rhetoric. First of all, Obama did capitalize on populist rhetoric. That's how like the whole change movement was, and like, oh, we need to give you healthcare. No one's getting it. This is our country's behind. Bernie did this as well, and I think has moved the conversation in such a positive way that this would not have happened but for the populist rhetoric.
Why do you disagree, Dev?
Mainly because it's led to a whole bunch of distrust in institutions, and you might have had some short-term gain, but it's been a whole lot of long-term.
Well, the question wasn't was it net good. The question was has it done good. So we can
has it
disagree on the
been
minutia
good
there.
for America or not?
Okay, well, the difference between good and net good is kind of important here. I guess.
Sure. I think it's been a net bad insofar as populist rhetoric got Trump elected, and that's been a horrible thing for our
Both
country.
exist.
So
Both are true realities, right?
Fake news. It's been a great thing. But I think I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go on.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's been good. Like even with stuff I don't agree with, like Joe brought up the Overton window on the healthcare. Like I think it's getting pretty common. Like, hey, okay, why are we spending all this money doing XYZ when we're the richest country in the world? We should have the best healthcare, right? Like that comes across. I've even moved positions on some shit. Like, okay, I've been pretty anti-tax, like taxes going to welfare programs for a long time. Now I'm seeing all this fraud, and I'm going, hey. You know what? Maybe it's just because of a product of the fraud, and maybe these programs actually would work if we gutted them and put people in there that were supposed to do it the right way. I'd be willing to see that. Oh, Lord and bro. We don't need to have that debate now. But like we're seeing it like this all over the place, right? And I'm just seeing like these kind of sentiment of where like people felt disenfranchised and they're looking for an answer, whether it's the system, whether it's elite. And that's why I think Trump is in office now and why Bernie was popular before. And it's just there is like some sort of disenfranchised group in America. And I think it's the average person. Like they can look back and see what they were doing during the 50s, the 60s for what people were doing, and they're going, why don't we get to have our house at this price at our cost of living? Why do I have to suffer?
We live in a different world.
Sure,
That's
I agree.
The problem with populism
I know.
it sells,
like the problem.
It feeds on people's grievances and it sells them lies. So it's not sustainable in that sense. And then again, the people you sell them lies, then you get your people elected. They can't actually deliver on what you want, and so then they become the elite that you hate and try to tear down too.
Gibbs, what I'm
this is an
cyclical.
example.
It's
One at a
cyclical.
time. Hold on. Ice Beans finish, and then Joe can go.
Yeah, no. This is exactly an example of how populism is utilized specifically to make our country worse. This idea that there's widespread fraud and that is exemplary of these welfare programs, and in so using that as an excuse to gut these programs is exactly the problem. Yes, correct. It has been used for bad.
Gibbs, I see your face. Gibbs, I see your face there. Listen, Nick Shirley is a fucking loser. Okay.
Okay.
We're not having the fraud debate today.
Yeah, it's crazy.
We're not bully the mentally disabled.
No, but absolutely.
Wait, didn't you hear? That's what the vice president announced today. That's his big boy job in the White House. Is that he's going after?
Didn't he just go back to fucking?
He's been doing that for a while.
Oh my god.
Yeah. It sounds. I mean, it sounds like not a bad idea in theory, but yeah, that's the new thing that he announced today is that they're going to enforce states.
This is the problem I think with populism.
Yeah, okay.
Not a bad idea in theory on some cases, but then when you look at how it's implemented and what happens because of it, everything goes to shit. Right? We talk about
bad things happen. Therefore, we should never, ever do it.
I don't think I don't think we should engage in populist rhetoric because it hurts us long term. I think
I agree with
Problem is
the brain rot that can happen from it.
It's too sexy. It's too sexy. That's why
Yeah,
I'm distressed over this, because I don't really see how either side, or any good candidate is going to win without like feeding that kind of that base instinct that people have, that populist
Good
instinct that people
things
seem to
aren't
have.
I
Right
mean,
now.
but hold on. Like we just saw, like
Wait,
just last
wait,
week, like
real fast.
Okay.
I was waiting. I love you, friend. So I agree with you, right? Like the realities of rural farmers is a valid reality. And then the challenge then becomes, what are the questions within that reality? And then what are the possible answers within that reality? And something that I think that we all kind of clocked in some form or fashion is that when you have somebody like a Donald Trump saying, this is what the problem is, and then the people go, it's not exactly the problem, but I guess I agree, that to me is insufficient. Like a politician's duty is to reflect the reality of the people. So their job is a temporary role of like maintenancing and upkeeping and then changing the realities of everyday people. That's what I think good governance emerges from. And Donald Trump is an example of this. Barack Obama is an example of this, where bad governance emerges when the realities of people is in contradiction with the policies and the solutions that they come about, like the answers to the questions that they're trying to do. Because sometimes the question could be wrong, sometimes the answer could be wrong, sometimes both could be wrong. So I agree with you.
Wick, would you say that Zoran is a populist?
I think that he used populist rhetoric to get elected, but since he's been elected, I don't see him governing in a populist manner.
See, this is what I'm talking about. You're like, he's doing things that I can't disagree with, so it's not populism anymore.
No,
like,
hold on. There's a lot of things I disagree with.
No. This is
Icebean, shut up. Icebean, stop. I'm answering Soapkill's question, please. There's a lot of things that people do that I disagree with that aren't populist, right? One of the things that Zoran Mamdani did do recently that I do kind of disagree with is pension restructuring. I don't think that's going to end well. I think that the way he's been balancing the budget by pension restructuring, and also he took a bailout from some other people, like that's not sustainable, right? That's not going to work in the long term. It's not. It's like a fake balancing of the budget.
What did Mamdani do that you like that isn't populism?
Huh?
What did Mamdani do that's you don't like that you do like, but it's not populism?
What did Mamdani do that I do like that is not populism? Again, populism isn't what you do. And I want to make this clear.
It's how you frame
what
it.
you do.
Okay.
It's how you frame it.
How did he frame
how you go about getting the political
It wasn't
will
populism.
to make a change.
He was just like, I'm a pragmatic guy and I'm not being a brain rotty populist. And you're like, and that's good. What did he do?
Repeat the question.
What's a pro-Mamdani policy that you're like, I'm good, this is a good thing? However, he did not use populist framing on it.
I don't know the framing that he used specifically for this.
Come on, man.
Hold on, you keep doing this. Name something he's done that's
part. Let's say the free buses thing. Free public transportation.
Hold on, Wick. Don't worry.
Hold on, stop. No, shut up. Shut up. Let me answer the question. Let me engage with this. Free busing isn't populist. Why would it be?
Because you're saying, hey, we all do this thing, everyone, and there's this system that lets us get around and work and eat, and some reason this costs us money. No, we all need to make like this a common good for everyone. That's populism.
No, that is not.
Oh my god! All right.
Wait, let me try.
Let me try. The busing industry has raised the rates to enrich their fat cats and the bus CEOs, and therefore we, the people, need to rise up against them and make busing free. I am with you, the people. I am against the fat cat bus CEO guys, and therefore that would be populism. Did Zoran Mamdani
Populism is Mamdani filming that ad outside of that billionaire's house and literally pointing up to his house and saying, people like these who don't even live in their primary residence. Right, exactly. Making an enemy out of this rich guy.
Are y'all saying that there's no, like, every okay, I just want to be clear what y'all are saying. You're saying that there can be no populist policy, period, because populism is only the rhetoric. Because if that's what you're saying, that's fucking retarded. Like I like William Jennings Bryan. That is fucking because William Jennings Bryan put William Jennings Bryan put out absolute policy that was specifically populist in nature.
I know. I want to get in before Rick forgets this point. Okay, like to me, it's not necessarily that I don't think that there isn't populist policy. But Zoran Mamdani, I agree with what you were saying, Wick, in that Zoran Mamdani utilized populism to get into power. Now that he is in power, he is governing without all of the overt trappings of populism that he utilized when he was running.
And I don't follow him.
That's why you don't see. That's why you don't.
I don't know.
No, I mean, no. I'm not saying
I don't
he
agree
doesn't.
with
I'm not
that.
saying. No, I'm not saying he doesn't utilize that framework sometimes. I'm saying that the things that you actually see, you're not seeing the same. Like, you're not seeing the same stuff that you would see out of a Trump governance, where like he still does the campaign rallies, he still talks about deep state, he still blah 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 blah, right? Like, so to me, it's more, and this is what I would say is a more preferable type of like utilizing populism. You use populism to get in. Once you're in, yes, you can engage in some of that rhetoric. You can even go so far as to do populist policy.
The problem
but I don't necessarily see like busing as like inherently
busing
populist.
isn't a populist position. Like,
but that doesn't mean I can't be
Medicare for all. These are not populist positions, right?
How is Medicare for all not populist?
If I simply say, hey, I think that our healthcare system is broken, we need to fix it so more people can get healthcare, and we have a Medicare for all system to do that, that is not necessarily populist. Populism is when I say the healthcare system is a billionaire tax because there are elite corrupt figures that are looking to hold you down.
Wick,
is a billionaire wealth tax populism? Like, is that a populist
policy? These things are not, they're not inherently not
necessarily.
Populist.
It is when you say the billionaire class needs to cease to exist because they're holding
What other reason would you tax billionaires on their wealth?
Populism. Well, merely raising the taxes on a group of people is not populism.
Look, I'm kind of confused here because
I don't know why you're confused. This is very simple.
Even in the advertisement about the ad about pointing to Ken Griffin's like $200+ million apartment, that was pointing like, hey, this is a thing that exists within our society. This is part of an unjust system, and this is what I'm going to do to tackle this unjust practice. He's not pointing to Ken Griffin the individual. He is pointing to Ken Griffin as an example.
Of course he was. He was literally at his house. As an example of a member of the class who was holding you guys down. It's textbook populism.
I was still speaking. I appreciate you, but
okay, I'm engaging with you. I'm engaging with you.
I wasn't done with the thought, so now you're going to look ridiculous. He was pointing to Ken Griffin, not as an individual, but he was somebody who was participating in that unjust institution and that unjust system. He's not going after Ken Griffin. He's going after the system that produces the practices of a Ken Griffin. That's different.
To do that, he was utilizing populist rhetoric to build support so he can accomplish his goal. His goal itself is not necessarily populist.
So he pointed at the thing and did the thing.
$50.
Does that make it populist?
$50 from Pondering Politics to say, Josiah thinks it might be good if we take some time to define populism.
Shut up. You missed the first 30 minutes of agony. Hell no.
That's right.
I think there's a slight conflation. Like, so I also don't think that Medicare for all or single payer is necessarily inherently populist. It's a very common, like, populist, left-wing, especially populist position to take. I think we're almost like conflating, not to use the word socialism in the most derogatory way, but we're almost like conflating populism and socialism here, which I think ironically, the populists of the left and the right do end up coming around to more like economically left-wing perspectives, policies, or whatever. But the original Populist Party in the United States of America, it had a sort of a mixture of what we would consider today to be left and right-wing populist positions. So it had a progressive tax system, and it had a rule that made it illegal for foreigners to purchase or own land in the United States. So it is kind of this mixture of what we see still explicitly today on the left and the right. But the Populist Party, when it failed in America, broke down into several socialist and Marxist parties after that. So there is like something sort of socialist adjacent to populism. And maybe that's what you guys are pointing to when you're saying that Medicare for all is obviously and inherently populist, but there's nothing inherently populist about saying that you want to design.
Just don't argue on it. Just grant it. Just grant it, because this is going to get so fucking annoying. Just grant it.
I am going to try. I'm going to try.
I second, so I feel.
One at a time. Joe, then Ice Beans.
I am going to. Okay.
Tally, respectfully, I tried to disaggregate this idea of elites versus common people as a broad us versus them, and you insisted to inject this idea as a common person versus the elite. Like, we tried to have this disaggregation of a broad us versus them.
What's your
to
point?
be beyond this idea. So to say that we're stuck in
No,
this,
it is the elite, but I didn't.
This is your making. This is your making.
This seems non-responsive. What are you saying right now that's a response to anything I just said?
You made this socialist adjacent. We tried not to do that.
I'm telling you, that's the history of populism in America. I'm going through a short historical record of the Populist Party in America.
Tali, again, I'm gonna try one more time, but then yes, I think it's better if we drop this point, okay? The whole idea of America having the best healthcare is a fundamental lie. You only have the best healthcare if you can afford it. If you are rich enough to afford it. That is the point. That is the specific railing. That is why it is not it's not good to be tied to this idea that there has to be an elite. The elite could be somebody who can afford shitloads of money, like hundreds and thousands of dollars to spend on if they get brain cancer, versus like what happens in real life in America where people go bankrupt because of their medical bills. That doesn't mean they have the best healthcare in the world. They do not. So the specific idea of Medicare for all, I don't know about this framing, about the socialist framing or anything like that. But this is why it is not good to relegate yourself to like a really specific, there needs to be a elite. No, it can be as simple as nobody can afford good healthcare.
Just defining the term the way that it's been used historically.
And look at what FDR, look at literally what FDR has done has exactly been along these lines. This is really silly.
It is really silly. We had a fundamental disagreement here, but we're gonna move on. We're gonna try to get to some interesting product. I think this has been interesting, but a lot of people don't. Soy Pill, what's your solution then to populist rhetoric? Like, so you mentioned in your opening statement that you want to harness it at certain points. When can you give an example for us just so we understand when is it okay and when would it not be okay to use populism?
Yeah, sure. So like there's this billionaire tax happening in California, and like the more I look into it, it seems like this is just not the best way to accomplish what the populist goal is, which is, hey, there's a lot of wealth disparity. We want to spread that wealth out. How can we do this the best? How can we raise revenue? How can we make sure these elites are, like feeding into welfare systems or, paying back into the system that made them rich? And if you look at this specific tax, I'm like, it looks like it's a one-time retroactive tax. So even if this doesn't pass, we've already lost revenue from billionaires moving all of their residencies because they don't want to be on the receiving end of this if they were residented in the state past January of this year and it passes in November. 25% of like the projected revenue has already been lost and it hasn't even passed yet. So using populism here to say, guys, elites do have a disproportionate amount of wealth that probably is undeserved to some extent with how much more they have. We could spread this out better. And here's the best way to do that. There are not just these simple solutions where we just say, take the money or tax the wealth. There are ways that you extract this wealth and reintegrate it. And so you take the frustration of people hating the elites for having all this money and say, how's the best way to redistribute that? I think that's capitalizing on populism and then trying to pass a more practical policy. A bad way would to be doing this billionaire tax where it's like, okay, it looks like this is not going to get the money we want. It's going to cause all this wealth fleeing. And you're just using this, hey, they're bad, let's get their money. And then you end up making the problem not better. So yeah, there are two ways to tackle this. And as long as you're introducing nuance and practicality and you have projections on how you're capitalizing on the populist rhetoric is actually going to make the problem better, I think that's fine.
Does anyone disagree with what Soy Pill just said? Aside from me.
No, I don't disagree.
Yeah, because I don't think
I would have a slightly different answer to your question, but that's like I don't disagree with what he said.
Fair enough. Tali.
I don't think I think it's like naive to believe that the populism, not to oversimplify it, but you're essentially dealing with mob rule at that point. And so I think it's naive to believe that you're going to be able to control the mob when you allow it to push you forward. So you ride that wave to get in, and then I don't think that like.
Well, can I piggyback off that, Tally? I think this is really interesting that you're bringing up the mob rule, right? So like we saw Tammany Hall now. The claim, and I know y'all are going to object to what I'm about to say, but that's fine. But the claim that the right has been making, and this is why the drain the swamp or this is populist language, is that there's a corrupt we can call it elite, or in this case, the system, or the uniparty, or the deep state, any one of these picks, excuse me, I'm sorry, and has come in and they've made the system corrupt, and it's even the stuff that's supposed to be helping the average man is not helping him, whether you're right or left, right? And so this fraud or this perceived fraud and all these different things. And so Trump has used this populist rhetoric to come in here, and now he's like, we're going to gut it, as opposed to Bernie's, which was expanded. And so that's kind of, I think, where we're seeing this policy aspect come into play, which I don't necessarily agree that, the policy can't be populist, but I do think the rhetoric for sure. Like, I don't understand, I guess, what your objection is to what Soy Pill is saying.
So my objection, objection to which part? Objection to his definition, or objection to what he just said?
Either
one.
No definition.
How it could be good.
Not the definition. For the love of God, no more definition.
Well, because I think that, like, to talk about, like, yes, you can get short-term gains, but I think that the danger in that is that you're doing long-term harm to how you're able to govern. I think that, again, consistently pushing the line that there is this group, whether it be shadowy elites or another group that is specifically corrupting a system, capitalism in this case, and therefore that's why there's these inequalities. I think it makes it impossible sometimes to actually fix what the problem.
Let me just ask one question, Wick.
What would you say?
Would you accuse bureaucracy in that? Say, like, we just thought it was overly bureaucratic, and you wanted to, like, streamline it.
Sometimes bureaucracy, like anti-bureaucracy stuff, can be populist, but it doesn't necessarily have to be, right? Like,
Wick, what if I could point you to rich people who have heavy influence over the entire country and have disproportionate influence, and that's a problem, we need to fix it? If that was just true, how would you address it if addressing it would fall into this populist brain rot that you're worried about?
Okay, one of the ways that we address these things is kind of like what's the best term for this? I guess to maybe answer your question, a good, like, analogy would be if I wanted to fix racial problems in this country. One of the ways I would do it. Calm down.
Wick, fix racism. The panel. Let's go.
One of the ways I would do it is by making laws, policies, etc., that don't attack white people because they have privilege, but rather address some of the inequalities between the races.
Now, I don't think this map's on. Let me talk about a real thing. Wick. Koch brother money since the 2000s has been this incredible influence over local elections, over state elections, over the general election, where these two people are able to have this hugely disproportionate power. This is an elite that is overriding the masses in certain ways because they're able to influence the media, the commercials, they're able to donate just these large sums of money. And if I'm going to capitalize on people discovering this and say, guys, isn't this shitty that you and your opinion is being overwritten by these people with this fuck ton of money? This is populism, right? This is us, the popular people, versus the elites.
Sure.
And we're like, how do we stop this? How do we capitalize this? How do we reform these laws?
It's led to Taylor Lorenz's article. You can draw a one-to-one.
Oh my God!
You can draw a one-to-one line.
No.
Remember the beginning when you said we weren't going to bring that up?
This idea.
Can I move you off? Can you wait?
Let's talk about centrism. Let's do it. The centrist panel.
I want to push.
No, we're not doing the centrist panel, but you brought this up. Like, how is that going to be a problem? Like, why is populist rhetoric a problem with something that's
true? I didn't say there couldn't be problem. Wait, stop. You and I agree. You and I agree. Wick. You and I agree.
The wrong target.
You and I agree that populism can lead to brain rot. It can lead to thought-terminating cliches. It can lead people to just look for the easiest solutions and not actually explore the nuanced position that might lead to a good outcome, right? Just because that can happen does not mean that the populist framing is correct to say there are literally these two elites who are overriding your vote as the majority of people. And we need to use that frustration to address that problem, right?
But the problem I'm pointing to is that you're trying to utilize this frustration, and it's creating. And people are catching strays.
What should they do instead?
Catching strays.
How do you address the Koch thing without using populism?
Fix dark money and
no, I'm asking you how do you run with a frustrated populace, a frustrated electorate, and without populism, tell them this is how we're going to address this thing. Hit me.
You can point to, hey, here are the laws that people have been abusing, and we're going to correct those laws.
Which is populism.
Just
that is not
yeah.
populism.
Can
Why
I
not?
wait, can I
Okay,
wait, can I be even more explicit? Okay, can I be
You can
even
be
more
even more
explicit?
If you talk vague enough, it becomes not populism. I agree.
When you asked me about this, and you asked me what was an example of a good example of populism. One of the things I brought up, or the thing that I brought up, is the Epstein files. Okay, now, would you agree that pushing on the Epstein files is good?
Not
No.
necessarily.
Oh God! Okay,
no.
my mistake. I shouldn't have asked the fucking question. Okay,
Giant distraction
example.
to
No,
feed a moral panic.
Hold on, no, let me answer the
no,
question.
no,
Hold on,
no,
let me
no,
answer your
I'm not-
question.
I'm not-
and
I
let me
don't wanna-
address
I
your
don't wanna-
concern.
I
Stop,
don't want
please.
people-
I want to actually
people-
engage here with what Ice
Yeah.
Beans is saying.
Technically,
I
it's
don't want to
free
be
to
on
feel,
Twitter. Please, please. I don't want to be on Twitter. Like, be careful.
Oh,
Okay. Wait.
you're talking about me
If-
getting clipped. I'm like, what do you mean? We're not
Okay.
on Twitter. Okay, no, I understand.
Duh.
Hold on,
Wait,
Ice
the
Beans.
idea,
Address your point.
like
Wick,
let me
this is worse than the
let me
ramen
lay out my
scandal, I'm gonna
question.
say
Let
that.
me lay out my
Well,
question. My
Lay up
question
your
is
question again.
yeah. My question is there is an issue of a Epstein elite. This idea, it's happening whether you like it or not. Okay. Now you're the person who is the anti-populist guy.
Mhm.
Guide us out of this hellhole.
Well, one
Lead
of the reasons that we're
out
in
of
the
this
hellhole that
murky
we are,
waters
sure, one
without
of the reasons
engaging in
we're
populism.
in the
Go
hellhole
ahead.
that we are is that because Trump and his cronies ran on the populist rhetoric of the Epstein files, right? That's what they ran on. They created this beast and they put forth all these different like conspiracy theories about what the like Bill Clinton was a secret sex fiend that was raping
Yes,
kids and
we know how we got here. Get us out.
like Hillary Clinton was drinking blood. This was all connected to the Epstein files and things like that. And this rhetoric, this rhetorical beast that through populist rhetoric, the elites are literally taking children to an island to destroy them. Like created a beast
we understand
that is currently destroying.
Get me out.
Does Ro Khanna and Thomas Massey's bill is this doing more harm than good?
What good has it done?
Yes.
Oh my
What good has it done? Well, hold on. Well, you can answer after. But what bad has it done when it's like, hey, let's try to be transparent and expose the people that raped kids?
It has
I don't know.
disclosed the
Maybe it
names.
gives the transparency of the voters that decide whether or not the people who raped kids are bad and they shouldn't.
Innocent men who were
because
not
of
sexual predators.
Because of incompetence. Because of utter neglect. Seriously.
Utter neglect.
Wait, Tali, which innocent men?
What do you mean? The people's names. I don't have their names.
They were ordered to redact
I don't have their names in front of me.
Yeah, no, they were ordered to
redact the names. Said the names on the floor himself. He literally it came out of his mouth.
You realize that it is the DOJ's fault that these victims' names are out there, correct?
We're not talking about victims here.
Then what the hell?
I'm sorry. Yeah, it is okay for these people's names to be out there if they are putting their name on the record.
Okay, and do you think
they're also like full-grown adults now?
Do you think that the perpetrators' names should also be named?
If they're seeking damages?
Do you think that the
yes, there were people who were not. Yes, you want to know the perpetrators?
Those people's names were censored. You know that those people's names have been censored.
No, except they haven't. Again, and there are two.
Have you looked at any of the Epstein files?
Yes.
Have you looked at any? Okay. All right.
Wait, do you think Jeffrey Epstein was the only one who did anything with minors?
He's the only one that we have any real evidence for, yeah.
Have you seen the Epstein file with the fucking Excel sheet of all these girls' names and whether or not they're underage? There's a column for like yes, no, and there's clearly at least one other person involved.
Hold on. You guys keep interrupting.
I'll name the names. Are you gonna defend these people's innocence? I'll start naming the names. Let's go. Howard Lutnick, okay? Are you okay with that one?
Please.
Or should I not name his name?
And what's your evidence that he assaulted small children?
I don't have evidence that he assaulted a specific small children. I have all of the evidence that he associated with Epstein, got massages, lied about it, and this guy just happened to get a lot of sex-trafficked massages, but maybe these were just the normal massages. I don't have proof of it, but to say that this is doing more harm than good by associating these people who were with a convicted pedophile that uses his massages to rape kids, I don't think that's a bad thing at all, but you seem to think it's worse than good.
You're like entirely overstating the case of what any of the facts prove here. I don't see how anyone in America. Yes, why do you keep saying that? Except I have.
Because why are you under the impression? Why are you under the impression that there's at least not enough to do it like an investigation on?
Because the
Shouldn't you be happy
government
the
has
bill
had this information
exonerated
in a
these innocent men?
bipartisan manner with Democratic
And they've been
administrations
going
and
through.
Republican
They
administrations.
they
And
they
so
put
again,
Ghislaine
unless you
Maxwell
believe that the
behind
deep
bars.
state is
They
yes,
put
exactly.
they put Maxwell
the
behind
reason
bars.
that
They put
if
Epstein
you would
behind
stop
bars.
speaking for 1 second, you asked why do I not believe that there's room for all of these extra investigations? Because the government has had all of this information, and I trust our institutions, especially if we're going to talk about across several administrations that are Republican and Democratic. I trust that they were not all lying and trying to protect pedophiles. That's why.
If Bill
Okay.
Clinton
Yeah, but
was as
I
good
don't
friends
have
with Jeffrey
populist brain
Epstein, do you think
rot,
he'd have an
that's why.
incentive to
Hold on.
not
You don't got to be
investigate?
populist to think that you don't trust the
Don't give,
institutions.
please.
Hold on. I don't
A
trust the
little
institutions
incentive?
at all. I don't trust the institutions at all,
Wrong.
and I wouldn't call myself a populist. Like, I don't think that's another inherent thing.
You're a Trump
where it's
voter. You're a
like,
Gibbs,
populist.
I think you're a
Yeah,
populist.
Gibbs,
You're a
Gibbs,
populist.
Gibbs, you're a
But, like, I'm using it
Gibbs,
pejoratively when I
you
talk to
are-
you.
Gibbs a
Y'all just don't
populist.
understand
You are the
Texas
biggest
history is the
Bunch
problem.
of chat
here,
if
my
you think
man.
Gibbs is a populist too is not. But Soypil,
Like-
can you ask Tali's question again and let Tali answer? Or can you ask
Which question?
the question? You had a
Oh,
question
do you
for
think
Tali,
do you
and
think
then
it's
Gibbs
ultimately
answered, and I don't
bad
know
that
why
this
he
came
did.
out because so many innocent men are being smeared? That's the reason it's worse than it is good?
I just don't see what if you could show me that it had benefits that outweighed innocent people potentially having their names smeared, then maybe I would agree with you. But I don't really see like what extra steps have been taken or who has been
Well, I don't know what your bias
in
is
the
because
release of
obviously
these
you're a Trump
millions of
voter, but I think it's
documents.
shown very clearly that Trump was just bullshitting the entire time when he hires these people that are saying we're going to expose all the pedophiles when, he himself and a lot of his close cabinet members are involved to very similar, if not more extents. And also, we don't know everything that we should know because he's blocking the release of the stuff that we really do want to look at. So,
So that I think is largely overstated. I think everyone, again, this is like how conspiracy theories work, right? It's like you get all the information and whatever evidence, hold on, whatever evidence you need must be in the one piece of information that we don't have.
I didn't say that. I said,
right?
what
did
I say that was conspiratorial? There's lots of stuff that has already come out that is absolutely fucking damning. So
yes, I agree. And Soypil, I completely agree with you that Trump was the one riling people up with this. He was pushing a lot of the conspiracy related to the Epstein stuff. And of all of the politicians,
it was his administration. He said, I don't want to release them because he knows he's in them.
He said different things at different times. That's not entirely true. Before the election, he was certainly he's leaned in and out of it at different times. But let me take it one step further. Of all of the politicians, I think Trump is obviously had the closest relationship with Epstein. They were obviously personal friends for a long period of time. So I have no reason to deny that at all. I still think that largely the sure, and I wouldn't because it's just obviously true. Again, he was by far the closest with Epstein, had the longest standing relationship with Epstein, and it is a lot of the retards and conspiracy theorists around him who made this into the issue that it is today. And I think the left has just cynically jumped on board with that. But I don't see how like any victims have been protected or the country is any better place because we have spent all of this time on what I ultimately believe to be a moral panic. There is no people still believe that there's a cabal of wealthy and powerful pedophiles in our country, and that's not true. And it's sad actually
just one.
That belief.
He was the exception.
Diddy, don't forget about Diddy.
Maybe two. I'll say there's at least
this type of rhetoric used to be the domain. This rhetoric used to be the domain of QAnon, and now, unfortunately, it's the domain of like regular everyday.
Why is that, Tali? Why is that, Tali?
Yeah, why did it become more regular?
Why did it become more regular? I just gotta,
because it's a useful political tool. I don't even know.
Well, also maybe there's like continued and exposed evidence that is not just based on conspiracies of like, wow, these guys all kind of knew about this and were related to it, and maybe have been lying about it. We can look at direct contradictions from the files and their personal statements, and so maybe there's not.
Then we should.
It's also not just one case. It's also not just one case.
Then we should be asking.
I have an answer.
We should be asking why.
Okay, enough. One at a time. Tali can finish her point.
Ignore all of this.
Tali can finish her point, and then once she's done, you can ask your question, Ice Beans. You can ask your question, Joe, and then Dev wants in here. Go ahead.
I mean, I'm done.
Okay, she's done.
I don't know what else there is to say.
Tali, the reason that things have been slow is because historically speaking, before the Trump admin came along, the DOJ needs a very solid case before they will move forward with indicting somebody and convicting somebody. That's been their modus operandi for years. Okay,
so they don't have a solid case.
No. No. Did I say that? No?
Well,
Okay.
you said the reason
Kind of
that they
implied
haven't done it and that it's been slow is because thank you. You implied it. Shorter way
Getting
of
back to
saying.
what I'm saying, a lot of if
Okay,
you
get
look
back
at the
there.
Epstein files with them more than just like the spicy things that you see or like from news articles that come out about it, there's absolutely enough to run an investigation, maybe not enough to get a solid slam dunk conviction. And in that case, the DOJ might be reluctant to pursue that. That's not to say that these people didn't do that shit. There's enough.
It's that we don't have strong enough evidence.
You're actually just like everything is just going in one ear and going out the other.
I feel like I'm listening to the exact words you're saying.
No, you're not. And somehow you're still saying them back to me wrong. How is that? Seriously.
Wait,
You
Ice Beans,
said the
let me
reason
ask
that they have
Tolly a question
not
real quick.
prosecuted.
Trump is the one.
Tolly, if you knew, you didn't know, someone was accused of rape, and they make all of these distractions and excuses and alibis, and then you have a document that does not prove that they raped this person, but it proves that everything that they've been saying as their excuse has just been a lie. Do you think it's good that the people get to see this evidence?
I don't know like who the people are, but yeah, sure, in theory.
Okay,
yeah.
cool. All right, that's all we're saying, right? So just because the Epstein files might not directly have a smoking gun that allowed the DOJ to prosecute some of these people, it's very clear that it is completely exposing that their narrative up until this point for the past 10, 20 years has just been completely fabricated. They've been lying about it. Now, maybe they're lying because they know it looks bad and they just don't want to look as bad. That could be the case, but it definitely shows that they've been lying, and it's important for the people to know that. And I don't think that's worse just because some innocent men might get implicated in it, which I don't think has happened yet. So
I mean, just to throw one other thing. I mean, with Diddy going down too, that's a very large, influential group of people. I mean, it's pretty clear there's a reason why all this is coming up in the news over and over again. It sounds like Alex Jones is right. Next, you can tell me there's vampire child slave colonies on Mars.
Oh, Lord.
This could be true.
Okay.
I'm not serious.
$5.
Well, no,
from
Gibbs
Audacity.
actually.
Just real quick, $5 from Audacity, and I want to hear what Dev has to say. He likes to come on here and say not a lot. $5 from Audacity. This conversation is populist. No, it's not. $5 from Audacity again to say, is Halo populist? You fight a lot of elites in that game. Fair enough. Dev, then Joe.
Damn.
I don't know, man. I'm just sitting here brain rotting away. I thought this was gonna be a completely different conversation, but okay.
Look, we try what we try. Go ahead, Joe.
So I was listening to you guys, and like, there's when you say populism as in the people are identifying a problem that actually exists. Fair enough, right? But when I heard the prompt, Wick, I thought we were talking about populism dissolving social trust, populism dissolving trust in institutions, and that's where the problem actually lies, right?
Yes.
Because you have people who distrust institutions because they see outcomes and they think that the institution is corrupt or the outcome is bad, and then they blame the institution itself. But then when those outsiders get into the institution and they actually get a good look at it for themselves, they realize it's usually actually not corruption. Sometimes it is, but usually it's not. Oh, guy, whatever his name is, where how he kept talking about he was a full Epstein believer. Then he got inside and he was like, "Oh yeah, it turns out that Epstein actually did just kill himself." And then he got destroyed by his own audience because, well, populists don't like to believe that sort of thing. But he's a great example of what I'm talking about. And the only way to fix this problem is education, right? Because the less educated you are, the more opaque an institution appears, even if the institution's transparent. Because uneducated people can't understand institutions from the outside. Even if like if you go to someone who has no idea how anything works or how the world works or anything, and you show them all of this data saying, "Hey, look, we're actually not corrupt," they're not going to understand it. The only way to solve the populist problem is education, and it takes a long time. It takes decades.
But I think, Dev, I think everyone here agrees more or less that populism isn't like, I don't think anyone here is like super pro-populist. It's more so a case for, at least for me, and I know for at least a couple other people, it's more about harnessing what populism is going to be a factor in some instances, whether we like it or not. And so it's about like harnessing it, what are good ways that it can be used in, at least to get people who know how to do good governance.
I know what you're saying.
Like the whole idea Yeah. Hold on, real quick. The point, at least my point, right, is to use like I'm fine with using populism. Get somebody in who can actually respond to the needs of the American people. And
racism's always going to be with us, so we might as well use it, right?
Sure.
No.
I don't know what you meant by that. I don't know. I do not know what you meant. I do not know what you meant by that.
Your whole argument is that populism might not be the greatest, but it's there, so we might as well use it. I am saying
you think populism is as bad as racism?
One argument with racism.
No, I'm not saying.
Soy, come on, man.
I'm saying. Hold on.
Just milking it.
I agree.
It can be. So
I think it can be worse. It can be significantly worse.
Populism can be worse than racism.
Yes.
Probably.
Yes.
Absolutely.
This is technically true.
It can. Okay. It is bad, but that doesn't mean that we can't utilize some aspects of it to get people who can do good governance, who can shore up our institutions, so
like
that a
racism.
future populism.
We can do the same with that.
Oh my God! If you interrupt my
I don't know what this one.
I'm never gonna. Okay, can I?
My whole point is that if you get somebody who actually addresses the needs of the American people, you reduce the extent to which a future populist movement can actually take root. Like imagine, like,
but that's utopianism. Like the reality is that systems aren't perfect. Like, there will always be inequities.
I'm not talking about utopianism. I'm talking about there's absolutely been people in this country who have become president and have done good things for the country. That doesn't mean it's a utopia. It means we're heading in the correct direction. Like, are you against that?
Certainly, I agree. No, of course I agree with that. Okay, but the point, I think this idea that like if you just get in like the right politician or whatever, the right administration, then we'll be able to kill populism because people will be satisfied. People are always going to be dissatisfied with something. Populism. Hold on, let me just.
Yeah.
Sure. Listen, I think you and I largely agree. I'm just trying again to Wick's point. I'm trying to argue why I don't think that we should engage in the rhetoric, even if it's useful in the short term.
Well, Wick, let me ask you this. In 2024, there was a populist rhetoric of frustration with the economy, and Democratic strategy was, no, you're wrong. These graphs show that you're wrong. And they're technically right. The economy was not nearly so bad as people thought and felt. But it didn't matter. There was a populist narrative that things were fucked. We're getting fucked. Our cost of living is going up. Inflation's bad. Eggs suck. And no matter how good there are, graphs of the consumer price index and like all these other things that actually show it's really improving and doing really well, that doesn't matter. Should they have capitalized on that and tried to funnel this rage at the system into an actual practical policy platform, or should they have done what they did, which I don't think worked, which was to say, no, you're wrong?
Sure, it didn't work in this case, but I think it was the correct move. Like, I think that over the long term and consistently, the method that they used usually works. So if something has an 80% success rate, I'm going to do it, right? Because 80% of the time it works. Pointing to the one or two times where a strategy that is proved to work fails does not disprove the strategy in and of itself. And one of the problems that MAGA's having right now is that they engage in the populist rhetoric to make people believe a thing that was not true. And then they're trying to fix the problem that they said that existed, that did not actually exist. And it turns out they can't actually fix anything. And, well, they're going to lose generationally in a biblical manner. They are never going to hold power again for a long, long time after this election, right?
Unless they gerrymander a victory.
Why would we do that?
Can I go now?
Yes, go ahead, Joe.
Oh, man, my Twitter was so peaceful. That was smart. He just muted and chilled the fuck out. I should have done that. I should have just went off screen over that passive defending.
No, you're not going to be canceled because I died on the Epstein Hill. I promise.
White women evil, bro. I get it. So okay. So something that I just don't. I don't know. I think we agree on this, but I'm not exactly sure. One of the things that I'm deeply concerned with when it comes to populism is the idea of these like fixed us versus them, right? This idea of like a common person versus elite. I mentioned this in my opening, right? That these groups don't actually exist stably and they move and change over time. And Wick, it just sounds like to me that you think that there's a politic that is possible where we cannot constitute a political antagonist it just sounds like you're saying that like there's a politic that is possible that a political antagonist doesn't have to emerge to get the things that we need to get done.
We have a
don't think that
built-in political antagonist.
Are
It's
you
the two-party
Wick, Tolly?
system.
Tolly, are you Wick? Are you
It's
Wick?
a two-party system. Like
Are
the
you Wick?
Dems can go and they can be
Are you
antagonized
Wick?
by the Republicans and
You
vice
are-
versa.
I appreciate your transition, Wick.
$10
love it.
first
I
of
don't
all.
know who
and
this
I'll
man on the
answer your
bottom of the
question in a
screen
second.
is now.
I'll answer your
Okay.
question in a second. $5 from No Aeon to say, sounds like populism has similar sentiments to basic U.S. ideals, e.g., power corrupts, checks and balances, and of the people, by the people, for the people, etc. I disagree, but we'll get into that when I answer to Joe's question. And then $10 more from Pondering Politics to say, okay, I'm trying to catch up. But when Joe goes, can he be allowed to explain what he means by populism without people interrupting him? Question mark?
I did it earlier. I don't know.
Okay. Fair enough. I think
Should I
it's another
should I
The people want
appease
more,
our
Joe.
Lord and
to
Savior
answer your
Josiah?
question, Joe. To answer your
Okay.
question,
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with you that every time there's an antagonist, that means it's populism. I can look and point to, like, for example, I think that the tax system in America is broken and it rewards certain people it shouldn't reward. And I can attack that and have that be my antagonist, but not do so in a populist manner. That is possible. And I think it's been done before and it will be done again. So to answer your question, I don't necessarily disagree that you have to have something you're fighting to change, right? An antagonist, if you will. I just don't agree with the framing that would make it populist.
Should I appease our Lord and Savior Josiah?
I guess if you want
Okay.
to.
So for me,
I think he was trolling.
He was
But this is
trolling.
incredible if
He
you
was
really go
trolling.
do it.
Okay,
He was trolling.
That's why I
Oh,
asked.
Lordy.
I want to say that one thing. Right?
I was
So,
going to respond to what Wick was saying.
Oh, go ahead.
Please, for the love of God, y'all like interrogate Tolly for like 30 minutes. My pushback here, Wick, is that the us versus them is inevitable. It's not going to be an individual person. It's not going to be an individual institution. It's always going to be something. That something doesn't have to always be just a person, just a group, X, Y, or Z. So like when I'm looking at the Epstein class, when I hear people say the Epstein class, and this is a question for you, Tolly, like when I see people talk about the Epstein class, what I'm observing is people observing a network of powerful people insulated from accountability through wealth, influence, and institutional connections. Is that like a fair way, if someone were to say the Epstein class, that they could frame it as that? Is that something you think that they might see it as?
I think they're wrong, but yeah, sure. I think that's what they see. Like to say no accountability for Epstein. I mean, the man died in prison.
Hold on. I didn't say
Like
no accountability. I said a network.
You said
of
that's what the
powerful-
people believe.
No.
Right. Who are going.
I'll run it back to you again. You're just
You don't
wrong.
need to. It's okay. It's okay. I don't. Okay.
I
can accept.
Powerful people insulated from accountability through wealth, influence, and institutional connections. If
insulated from accountability. Okay, so you did say it, and so my point stands.
I didn't
but
say
it's fine.
No. You can be insulated from something and still have it affect you. COVID-19.
Okay.
So you're disagreeing with the idea that the Epstein class exists?
It's not a useful heuristic. Like it just helps feed conspiracy and
Who
grievance.
is part of the Epstein class? That's what I'm really curious about. Is Chuck Schumer a part of the Epstein class?
Howard Lutnick, really easy. Howard Lutnick.
Well, I'm asking Joe. Joe, is Chuck
argue
Schumer part of the Epstein class?
Chuck Schumer?
Yeah.
Broadly speaking, it does not seem to be that he is the constituted opposite that belongs in the Epstein class.
Okay.
I would argue, however, that Donald Trump is.
Okay, fair enough.
Donald Trump.
So why not just say Donald Trump? Why the Epstein class is so vague is my problem with the term, right? It's so vague.
Which is why
people use
they're recognizing a network of powerful people insulated from accountability through wealth, influence, and institutional connections. If we believe this to be the case, and the evidence seems to suggest that this is the case, it's important to know what is this phenomena that they're observing. Is this the actual phenomenon?
I want to.
What happened in practice was that the way that the government tried to reveal this information to the public had more questions than it gave answers, right? The fact that there are individuals that we don't know the extent of their involvement in this thing. We don't know if they're actually part of the network or not. Like I think that's the confrontation here. That's the them.
When Cenk Uygur is calling someone the Epstein class, do you think that's what he means?
Yes.
I don't.
Yes.
I don't.
Wait, what do you think they mean?
I think he means his political
They
enemy.
mean rich, powerful Zionists. That's what most people mean, essentially, by the Epstein class.
Oh
Rich,
my!
powerful
Please don't tell
Zionists.
me, Tali. Please don't tell me that you think that all this Epstein files thing is a big like Zionist conspiracy thing.
Listen, I before
No,
Tali
but
goes,
that's obviously
Then
part of it.
what's your
It's
why are you
obviously part of it.
characterizing? Why you? Why you?
Because that's how Cenk Uygur characterizes it.
Yes.
Because Cenk Uygur is fucking crazy. Like that's not the defining member of who uses the term Epstein class. He didn't even found the term.
I think he coined the term.
No, I think Ro Khanna did.
May I?
Wait, can I ask another question? Because I might agree with you here.
Okay, go ahead.
I would like to go after the next question.
Yes, you can go after that, Gibbs.
One of the problems that MOOF lays out is that there needs to be a consistent narrative against whatever the opposite is. It's not just enough of having an opposite. It's enough of having, there's a few different steps about this. And it's not only about the opposite, it's about the narrative that exists within the opposite to correctly identify what the problem is. Do you think that is happening in the case with somebody like Jeffrey Epstein?
So when it comes to MOOF specifically, it's been a couple years since I read her book. I think it came out in 2018. I read it in 2019.
Whoa, I'm talking about hegemony. I'm talking about hegemony.
Hegemonic, not so. I'm talking
about her earlier works, not her most recent.
Oh, not her most recent. That I'm not as familiar with it. The only thing I know about her is the book she wrote in 2018.
Okay.
So,
well, the point I'm trying to make here is that one of the things that she lays out, that like positive social change emerges from not only having a constituted opposite, but a proper narrative that exists within that constituted opposite.
Sure, messaging is important. I would agree with that.
Right. Do you think that the messaging within something like the Epstein files produces someone like a Tali?
I don't know what you mean by that. Can you elaborate on what you mean by produces someone like a Tali? What is like
Tali has run
give me a Tali adjacent figure.
Tali has run defense over the Epstein files and the very idea of the Epstein class through that entire portion of the conversation. Do you think that's a manifestation of an improper narrative from people who are against the perceived Epstein class? Or do you think that something else is happening there?
I think that you guys have different ideas of what the Epstein class is or should be.
Do you think that exists in a broader sense to people who identify the Epstein class?
Yes, I do not think that most people fundamentally understand what let me say it this way. I think if you say the Epstein class, you're going to have a lot of different people with a lot of different ideas of what that means. So even just a simple definition of powerful, rich, connected individuals that are insulated from accountability because of their power, that also in many ways applies to someone like Cenk Uygur, right? So when people hear the Epstein class, they do not fundamentally, like, it's just too vague of a term to be very useful outside of a political animosity kind of like, these are the bad guys. And that's what it is. It's a short.
It is literally these are the bad guys.
When you say the Epstein class, I'm not saying that the. Actually, go ahead, Gibbs. I know you were waiting.
No, you're fine. I just here's my issue, right? And I really want to come back to what Dev was just kind of talking about right here. Y'all talking about the Epstein class. I'm sure that we could come up with some nebulous definition of whether it's a Zionist, whether it's just rich billionaire elites. I don't really give a shit. All right, and I'm going to be honest. When we're sitting here talking about the populism thing, I think there's a much more interesting convo to be had, right? And which is, okay, when the checks and balances in the system fails you as the people, what do you do, right? And so what we've seen right now is, we the people, since earlier somebody said mob rule, right? I have sat here for a while, and I don't think you have to be inherently populist to not trust these institutions. Y'all have sat here, some of y'all have, and said, woo, institutions good, specifically Devin and Tally here. And I'm going, I don't think they're inherently good or bad. However, when I asked Wick about bureaucracy, he agreed maybe gutting some bureaucracy would be populist, right? And I think this is important. At some level, I'm going, hey, I'm glad Trump is in here gutting some of these industry, these like organizations, because he's in there and he's making it more efficient. We're getting rid of some of the bloat. This is what happens with any business. You get a business too big, and then you have to trim it down, and then it grows again, right? You see this with deforestation, right? Sometimes you got to burn, you got to regrow, do a part of it. And so when I'm sitting here saying, oh, we need to go gut some of these, that's not necessarily not populist. That's not necessarily populist. It's like, it's something that we, the people, I guess it is populist in this current time setting, because we're going, and I guess like when y'all were sitting here with Bernie, y'all want to expand it, but now y'all are sitting here so stuck on which class is what. Like, what are we talking about here? Are we going to talk about the systems? Like, what are we talking about? Let's talk about that.
No.
Well,
Okay.
Gibbs, real quick, Gibbs.
Give it to Dev first. Go ahead.
I'll just say, Gibbs, Trump is not doing any of the things that you just said he was doing.
Oh, absolutely.
There's no inefficiencies being cut.
He's cleaning out the Tammany Hall.
He's making
he's making things more inefficient.
More inefficient. More.
It's a short-term inefficiency to get new efficiency.
No. We just fired about 200 State Department diplomats.
Good.
People who. Oh, great. Then why are we rehiring for their same positions right the fuck now?
Why? Because those people had to go. They were doing their job inefficiently. Get rid of their ass. Get some new in.
Oh my God, are you fucking
out with the old and with the new? No, I'm not even serious.
Thank you for illustrating that you do not know what the meaning of the word efficient is.
I mean, I run several successful businesses, and we do this all the time. Like, I don't know what you're talking about.
This is ridiculous.
So basically,
there are people who could be.
Hold on, Ice Beans, calm yourself.
There are people who could be working in the Middle East right now who have all of the qualifications, all of the experience, all of the language training, all of the fucking years of experience. They're gone.
And they were failing, so get them out.
No.
Fuck them.
No, you don't.
Like,
why
this,
no, you don't.
No, I mean, the first Iran deal, utter failure.
Do you know the first thing? Do you know the first thing about these cuts?
You fire them.
That Trump has been making them efficient. No, if you hire,
in fact, hire them back, fire them again. For emphasis.
No, that's not how that's working. They're not rehiring those people.
I know they're not. Thank God.
They're saying that those positions weren't needed, got rid of those people, and are now rehiring for those exact same positions with new people. Now,
that happens a lot in business. You got to get rid of the old. Well, it's because they found out the position wasn't. No, it is efficient. I'll explain how it is efficient real quick. I will. I do know what efficiency is. Listen. No offense. I don't know. I run. I am small. But hold on. What you do? Sometimes you fire. Hold on. When you fire people, you find out a position is needed, and you hire. And the reason why you're failing is because someone was doing that position poorly, and so then they hire someone that actually can do that position well. Yeah, I mean, I do it all the time, and I do a good job of it. So
I will. Okay, great. I'm going to give it to Gibbs. Let him answer the efficiency question. Then we're going to move on.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree. Sometimes you have to rehire people for a position you fired people for. That happens. Why? And it sucks. It does suck, right? But here's the thing. You fire somebody and you go, this position wasn't needed. Somebody can do the job of two people. Then you find out, we did need that position. But this person was so bad at their job, they had to go. And that's then the case here. These people were dog shit at their job and they deservedly got fired. And it's wonderful. I'm excited. Love it.
You are actually a subhuman piece of garbage. You don't even know why these people were
Because fuck those people,
You just know. You don't know how. You have no idea. You actually have no idea. Trump just says, we needed to fire them. They were bad at their jobs, and you just
I've been saying they were bad at their jobs for 20 years.
What are you, some kind of pig?
Yeah, no, Ice Beans, you got to give him some credit. He was stupid far before.
Yeah, Bob was stupid far before. Yeah, that's right. Thank you.
Gibbs, here, I got a question for you, Gibbs. Okay.
You have a thought for yourself?
We gotta let.
I've been saying this a long time.
We gotta let Devin.
So Gibbs,
go ahead.
In the past, it's like a year and change since Trump's been to office, right? So in the past year and change, when Trump has been firing people and he's been saying, "I'm going to get people in there who are loyal to me," do you think selecting new recruits for loyalty is the same thing as selecting new recruits for efficiency?
I think it's absolutely both. It goes hand in hand because if you hire, I'll tell you why. If you hire somebody that's not loyal to you, then you're gonna have somebody come in here and they're gonna fucking try to you push a new policy. And if they don't disagree, they're gonna slow you down at every turn. So yeah, absolutely. And if you know American history, for basically the whole time, what we used to do is you'd come in here and you'd fire everybody from the last person. Hold on. This is actually historical. Maybe you should read some history books and you'll understand. But used to, the president would come in and he would fire everybody. Yeah, I do read the newspaper, and they would fire everybody, and then they would bring in all the new people. I mean, you're telling me I'm wrong when I'm speaking about actual things that happened in history. You're telling me, are you saying this didn't happen in the United States for 2 centuries?
I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying.
Oh, okay, so it did happen. You're the one talking about slop.
Right now,
you're right.
Why should I listen to you about history, bro?
Yeah, I mean, okay, hold on. If we're gonna do that, let's just open up our bank accounts and see which one's bigger, and then we can sit and go, oh, your economy doesn't matter. Like, that's fucking stupid.
I'm so scared.
I'm not scared. I'm just saying, like, if you're gonna do this, like you're gonna say you're attacking my personal history when I'm talking about like actual historical. You're making like, I mean, I'm just saying.
Okay, cool. No, you are fucking
$20.
You're the one personally attacking me. I'm just saying.
Well, I'm trying to do super chats. Please let me do super chats. I gotta make a little money here. Sorry. $20 from no fucking way to say based Joe, based Gibbs. The Epstein class is Zionists. Steen was Mossad. Oh, Steen was Mossad.
What? Rest my case.
Wait, on the topic of Jews, I want to ask Tolly. Wait, no, I need to ask Tolly. No, this is more important. Wait, because you're about to read a $5 super. Tolly, if John Ossoff says Epstein class, do you think he's being like anti-Zionist or whatever? Like, I feel like he's pretty much not this like anti-Israel brain poisoned thing. Like he's not.
No, there are as I start. Well, he's certainly not he's not like pro-Israel, but no. As I said in the very beginning, I think people use populist rhetoric cynically for political power, and I think that's what he's contributing to. So he doesn't need to be an anti-Semite in his heart to use tropes that are used as anti-Semitic dog whistles.
I don't hate women when I call them slurs, right? But I do it because it makes me money.
I mean, hold on, wait.
$5 from the last batch.
Can I slur too?
To say, yeah, depends on the slur. Appeasement will never work. Look at Jenk calling the ACA a release valve. Any attempt at appeasement will be used by them to attack moderates later. And then $2 from Robert Paulson to say Epstein class is more like Robert H. Richards. Thank you.
Okay. I do want to say that one thing, since we're talking about, what has Gibbs said before, I've said many times socialists are Nazis, right? And here we have a great example of a socialist using Nazi buzzwords to describe me. We use pig, subhuman. Man, where's counterpoints when you need them? But then we'd have all the Nazis. I mean, it's just crazy that you're going to sit here and you're going to try to say with a straight face that I'm these things. Hold on, let me ask you this: why did he fire those people? Do you know why he fired them? Can you say specifically 100%? You know why he fired every single one of them?
You know how?
You know why? Oh, okay.
Exactly the
tell me.
For the firing is because I've seen the actual literal SF-50s that indicates.
Oh, every single one.
The Turk. Yes, motherfucker.
Oh, every single one.
Wait, what do you think I do for a living?
Doesn't matter to me. I don't give a shit.
Then why are you even talking?
I'm asking. You see every
How would any of us know what you do for a living?
Yeah, and why would I care? Like, you see every single one of these firing slips? Like, yeah.
Assuming that Tali. No. Assuming that what they have been fired for is their performance. They
can be fired for any reason. I don't give a shit if they got fired because they look funny. Fire their ass.
We have no idea.
Yeah, well, no, wait, Gibbs, we can stop arguing. Gibbs admitted that he doesn't actually care.
Yeah, they need to be fired.
He's just got this dumb, retarded, bureaucratic, anti-bureaucratic brain rot, and it's fine. You can ignore everything.
And
it's overbloated. They need to be fired. They got fired.
To be clear, I'm not calling Gibbs a pig for no reason. I haven't even brought his weight into it, okay? I'm just saying the reason I'm calling him a pig.
I mean, if we're going to do a roast off, I'm going to roast the shit out of you. So just let me know if we're going to do this.
He has literally sat here and proven.
I don't know how somebody's going to make a comment about someone's appearance with eyebrows like that. Jesus Christ. Somebody wax that shit. We got some cockroaches over here. God damn.
Okay. Both of you.
The literal reason. Yeah. Okay.
Hey, maybe get some hair product. Your hair is kind of looking split ends at the end.
Shut up.
Okay, so
hold on. I'm telling you both to just tone down the personal.
I mean, I didn't make any until after I got it back.
I
understand.
We just keep going.
Please.
Okay, so here.
It's like dealing with fucking kids. I don't care who first. Both of you, stop doing it. Okay.
Dev, you look pretty tonight, Dev.
Oh, thank you very much.
Go ahead.
Do you like the bulge in my artwork? Is that what it is?
Oh God. Okay,
Yes.
all right. You confirmed it.
Jesus.
Thank you.
Dude, okay. I saw somebody in Soypill's muted right now. I guess I can't say this to him until he unmutes or until he unheadphones himself.
Good Wick subs,
it's-
aka Patozai. Really appreciate you.
Okay, so Gibbs. Okay, here. This is gonna sound like I'm completely derailing. I am not. There's a reason for this question. Give me a short answer, okay? What is your problem with DEI policies?
DEI specifically, I don't like the idea that people aren't going to get in there on merit over like just think shows it right. For example, on a personal level, I'm Hispanic.
Dev's point.
Hold on. I know.
Just wait.
Like I'm Hispanic, right? And the idea that someone has to gift me a job is kind of appalling. I don't want to be given anything. I want to earn it, right? And so, like, do I agree with you? Asked specifically with Trump's DEI. I think you should have kept those people in there until he found replacements. But they've decided to fire them first and then replace them, right? Whatever. But either way, I don't think that we should be giving away things on race quotas. I think that's a bad way to do it.
Right. So the more sophisticated argument against DEI is that they're selecting for loyalty towards a political movement or a racial movement or something rather than their ability to do the job, right? We can say that
loyalty is not the same as DEI.
If that's what DEI did, but it doesn't.
No,
so
it's not what DEI
it doesn't. But it isn't quite what it does. But still, that is the argument that I hear from right wingers. Okay, the issue.
I mean, I would hope that the left did this too, is put loyal people in their job. If you're hiring, say like I got hired by Obama to run a post office, and he fucking put out a postal service thing that I didn't agree with, I'd probably try to do it slower. You should probably hire people that are going to be loyal to your agenda. That just seems like common sense.
That's how you have a cult of personality and a bunch of sycophants that make you do
not yet.
So
sycophants. That's not what I'm talking about.
Hold on, Dev had a question for Soypill.
Yeah.
Soypill, undeafened, graciously joining us back in the panel.
It was a joke question. Don't worry about it. The actual
no, now you got to ask it. You made me undeafened.
Okay. You at one point when I didn't, I was deafened. You were wondering about my artwork bulge.
Yeah. What's up with that? That's fucking weird.
I didn't draw it, man. I have no fucking clue.
You're using it.
This. I am.
Pants are tight.
Honestly, it kind of just looks like a fupa, to be honest.
I am pretty fat.
Damn.
It's giving vagina.
You know what? I will ask the artist to change it. You know what? I looked at.
Do not change it. Do not change it.
So glad I'm so glad I gave the floor to you to ask.
That. Yeah. So my actual question for Gibbs. Okay. Yeah. So here's the thing, right? When you talk about people who are excessively loyal, what they're bringing to a job is specifically their loyalty. They're selling their loyalty, right? People who are hyper competent don't need to be loyal because they're so good. They if they're fired from a job, they'll land on their feet and go somewhere else, right? So when you say Trump needs to hire loyal people, he's not going to get the most efficient workers. You can't hire for loyalty and competency at the same time.
You can't.
This is something that, in my opinion, right wingers understand more than left wingers because right wingers
hold on,
more intelligent ones.
Hold on. Do you think that Dr. Goebbels was intelligent?
Who? What?
Do you think Dr. Goebbels was intelligent?
Dr. Goebbels?
Yeah, the propaganda minister for the Nazi. Yeah, do you think he was intelligent? Okay. Do you think that he was? Do you think that he maybe was like one of the most influential all time in regard to propaganda? It was extremely effective. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, was he hired and put into his position for that ability solely, or was it because of also his loyalty?
Yes, it was also his loyalty. Yes.
So you can be both, correct?
You can be both, but most people aren't going to be.
You're holding him up as
both. Look at Goebbels.
I'm just using. I know. Hold on. I'm using this as an example on purpose. I'm doing this as a purpose because socialists are not Nazis, bro. Yeah, that's the whole point. Is the socialists are Nazis.
I'm going to make a little bit of money, and then I'm going to give it to Joe. Joe's been trying to get in here. Joe's been very, very good. And we're going to give it to Joe as soon as I read this super chat. It's $20 from No Fucking Way to say Ice Beans bringing the signature woman approach, sign language, shame, insult, guilt need to be right. Soypill.
Oh, hell yeah.
As a centrist,
You know his room
how
stinks.
can you help other plebes like me trust the institutions?
As a centrist, I mean, you can just point to the history of all the accomplishments they had. Look what happens when they're gutted and they're mistrusted. You can look at like what Doge did and say, hey, this is how the effects of our country are going to be felt for the next 30 years because dipshits in office think that the DOE is bad because they pushed DEI at one point, and show that like now we're just going to have disabled people like unable to get sufficient schooling. We're going to have like a complete disconnect between states and like federal government on like how education policy should work. You just have to point at the material effects that the Trump admin and all these other like dipshit populist tear down the institution people are doing and say, look, it just doesn't work empirically. But yeah, I mean, I agree with Dev when he was like, it is education. You can use populism, like I said, to do good things. But if you people don't understand what the consequences of some of these policies are, they're not going to learn and not repeat them. Case in point, Gibbs. So.
Can I also? I
no,
also want to follow up.
not yet.
Wait, I want to finish a follow up on what Soypol
Is
was
it
saying.
brief? Because Joe's trying. He's
Oh,
being
okay.
good.
No, well, okay. No, I mean, okay.
It's not brief. Then we're gonna give it to Joe. Hold on to it.
No, it's not gonna come back to me. That's my point. The point is it's not just, and these things have been happening for a very long time. Some of our institutions, the cracks in some of our institutions have been laid out for a very long time. The whole point is to get you to lose trust in those institutions and then break them entirely, and then thereafter point at them and say, they don't work. Why should you trust them? We should get rid of them. Case in point, the USPS. Classic example of an agency that has been kneecapped at several points in our history. And now you have Trump coming along at the 11th hour, and he says they need to go. Trump is not necessarily the problem. I think you should look at these things when you're looking at distrust in an institution. Look at its history too. That's all I'll say.
Okay, Joe.
All right, Gibbs. Let's get it. So, do you believe that inequality equals oppression?
No.
Okay, I agree. I agree with you. So now that that's the floor, I'm gonna ask you like 2 or 3 questions. Is that all right?
Sure.
I'm building an organization, and in my organization, I say I only want Black people because I believe only Black people are going to be loyal to the interests and different dynamics for my cause. Is that an inequality?
Is it a private organization, or is my tax dollars paying for it? Because if it's private, then go ahead. Do whatever you want.
Let's say my tax dollars are paying for it.
Then, fuck that. I don't want my tax dollars to go to any kind of organization where it's like, just one mono group, I guess.
Or it's
But why
racist.
is that
I don't want it to go to the Klan. I don't want the money to go all to the Klan either.
If I'm the president of the United States and I'm going to say my entire cabinet is going to consist of Black people because I have a Black agenda and I only believe that Black people will be able to forward this cause, is that an inequality? First question, is it an inequality?
Yeah, I guess it would be an inequality of some sort. Yeah.
Is it oppression?
I'd probably say no, because you won the election, you ran on this platform. If you got in there and you pick people that are qualified, then hopefully you pick loyal, qualified African Americans that are going to push your agenda. That would make sense to me.
So let's say a white person, let's say Ash of Certainty, came to you and said, "This is
I don't know who
bullshit.
that is, but sure.
This is oppression to white
Nelson
people."
mentioned.
Is
Okay,
he
go
correct?
ahead.
Wait, say that again. I'm sorry.
No, it's a
Gelatinous
guy in my
rube.
community. Go ahead.
If Nelson came to you and a bunch of people came to you and said, "We as white people believe that this is oppression," would you believe them?
I'd say it sucks to
They
suck.
said this
Thank God I'm
inequality
Mexican.
exists. They're telling you this inequality exists and this inequality is oppression, and you would disagree with them?
I would tell them to cry me a river. Like,
What about you,
I don't know, like, what you want from me on that one?
That's fine. What about you, Tyler?
No, I don't think it's oppression. I think
Ivy?
it's dumb, but not oppressive.
If I'm
That
the
word is
president of the
also like
United-
very imprecise. It's very
Yeah,
imprecise.
I wouldn't use the
too,
word
so-
oppression for it, but there's something
Right.
absolutely, I think,
It's illegal.
unfair. It's
Is it
unjust.
It's illegal.
Yes, it's unjust.
Is it-
Yes.
Why
I would
is
agree it's
why is
unjust.
it unjust?
Because you're
Is
taking
it
a
measurable?
Hold on, you're taking the reason racism, and that's what it would be, is unjust, is assuming the only people that can be loyal must share the same skin color or descendancy or ancestry.
I'm saying I have a pro-Black agenda, and I only believe that Black people are able to actualize this agenda due to the historical realities of Black people in the United States.
Yeah, but
That's
that
my
would be
argument in saying that's just.
that would be an argument. I would disagree with that argument because I think that we can showcase plenty of people who would be able to fulfill your agenda and be loyal to that agenda who would not necessarily share your ethnicity.
Soy Pill and Dev, where do you stand on that before I drag Wick?
Yeah, basically, obviously, I can understand the sentiment. I know a lot of pro-black activists who are like, yeah, even if a white person agrees with my ultimate agenda, I might not necessarily think that they're going to contribute in the same way a black person would. But unfortunately, yeah, this is one discriminatory.
It's racism.
It's racism, not in the same way that you would see other racism, but it is racism. I just don't. It doesn't really matter. But if you're doing a government institution, then you literally can't do this. You can't just hire people based on their race. That's illegal. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense to hire people that have more of that background and more of that cultural relevance that can contribute to the project that you're trying to do, if it's a specifically pro-black one.
Okay. Dev?
I mean, I'm a colorblind lib, so I'm not a fan of this. Sounds bad.
Wick, I'm the president of the United States. I said that I had a pro-black agenda, and I made sure that my cabinet reflected that pro-black agenda. The outcome is that it's all black people. You're arguing that it's unjust. How do you do it without populism? How do you solve for this problem?
How do I solve this problem without populism? I would say that the criteria that you use, that you just mentioned in this hypothetical, was race-based. That's not a populist critique. That's saying, hey,
how do you solve for this without populism?
You used was manifestly
if it's not me versus, if it's not a people versus
how do you solve for that? How do you solve for that with populism? I feel like it's a nonsensical question. How do you solve for someone trying to illegally
No, he's
fill
saying
his
a lot of the things that were a lot of movements that are meant to address like inequalities have in some way relied on populism. So if you're making the argument that you can do this without populism, if you want to cut out some of this populist rhetoric, then you're going to have to explain how, for example, like this is why by the way I brought up the Epstein class thing, okay? Is how do you get us out of the zone? How do you get out of that problem without at some point invoking populism?
Easy.
When there's an identified
problem. Hold on, what is the problem?
When there's an identified
right?
Huh?
Like this, like you're asking is that this is an impossible thing to do, but it's very easy. In the specific hypothetical that was given, you simply point to, hey, they're using a criteria that leads to unjust outcomes. That is not a populist statement that I just made, and yet it addresses the point. And I think that people, people can just see that, and it's just manifestly true. And then you argue this in the marketplace of ideas, you get people behind you to make the votes and impeach this racist president, Joe. And
so how do you go after the racist president without going after the racist president?
Hold on. Going after a specific individual does not necessarily it's not a necessarily populist thing. Going after a specific individual, like the Koch brothers, for example. That's what people was going after earlier, right?
This is why I took issue with your definition from the beginning, because it's not just people are angry at a person or a thing equals populism.
Never said that. But you don't listen, so it's fine.
All right. Now, I'm sure that I'm the one who's the problem here, not this very bizarre hypothetical. What's the problem we're even solving for here?
Okay, Tali, think of an issue that, like, okay, can you get, how about this? Let's start with from you, okay? Can you give me an example of like something that has we've gotten here because of populism?
I don't think I understand the question.
Is there anything in America
you think populism is bad, and there's plenty of examples of why populism is bad. Do you have an example? Like, what's an example that you think of when we talk about why populism is bad?
Perhaps you want to like supply an example here. I don't know what you mean.
Like, no. I'm asking you.
Because people believe lies and conspiracies.
Just real quick, because we have people who have to go. I want to give the mic to Soy Pill to have his outro so that he can just dip when he wants to. So tell people your closing thoughts on this, and I
mean, nothing's really changed. We just jumped all over the place. I think I think something that these silly arguments that we got into does indicate is that there are populist rhetorics that I really don't like. I think that populism can do a lot of harm. I can totally agree with the idea that these thought-terminating, bureaucracy bad, government bad, establishment bad, this stuff is not good. Unfortunately, there are going to be people that try to capitalize on this kind of bad thought-terminating cliches, like the super far left movement, I think, does this. Trump does this. And I think you need to be able to capitalize on the grievances and maybe even use populism, but you need to be able to educate people, like Dev said, into the correct practical positions. Basically, what I'm saying is we need more centrists.
Boom! $20 from AK Batozai. It's coming up. Thank you for being here, Soy Pill. You can follow, like, if you don't know who he is, I don't know where you've been.
Don't know who I
He's
am.
blowing up, but link to his channel is my YouTube description. You can stay as long as you like, but I know you have a hard out soon.
Yeah, I got to skedaddle. I'm just going to address my chat. Guys, good to talk to you. I was not nearly so mad as I thought I would be at anyone here. And I love you all, and have a wonderful weekend. And I'm going to go wipe
Twitter?
all... Sorry?
Are you still banned?
I actually got unpermabanned. So
Okay.
it turns out there's a secret
on.
set of words. There's like a code phrase you can say to them, and I'm not even joking, that they will unban you. If you show them the actual reason you shouldn't be banned, absolutely not a deal. But if you talk about free speech and the left-wing hate mob, you're back, baby. So
Yeah, I have a project that I'm working on. I want you included in it. I'll send you a DM then.
Okay. Also, I refuse to take part unless you fix your screen, because right now I'm just using it for to put my chat where half of your camera should be, and I don't know why you never have a full camera. This always OCDs me.
Makeshift setup for tonight. I had a makeshift setup for tonight.
No, but this has happened before. I know. We'll get you a camera.
No.
All right. Well, nice talking to you. Thank you, Wick. I'll talk to you guys later.
Always a pleasure.
See ya.
Bye.
Okay.
The ultimate centrist right there.
Okay.
Back to it. Go ahead.
Okay. I do want to try. I do want to try again. So like Tali or Rick, okay? Either one of you. Like, can you give me an example? Can you give me an example of like a specific issue we are facing right now that is as a result of populism?
Yes, I can.
Can we speed it? Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Anti-vaxxism. That's a populist thing that we have dealt with in America now, and to a much greater degree than we have before, even though anti-vaxxism has always been a thing. But I think we would all agree it's been turned up to 11 by populists who say you can't trust the pharmaceutical companies and those evil FDA people and those evil doctors, big pharma, all these things. They're corrupting the system. You don't need to take these vaccines. They're just implanting the chips in you. Like, what was his name? Bill Gates put the chips in there and it's going to kill you and all these things. That's a populist thing. It was rode on a wave of populism, and that is why we have that problem.
All right, cool. So now coming back to kind of what Joe was indicating towards, we have a president who has RFK Jr., Mr. Raccoon Penis himself, this is the guy who's supposed to lead us out of the next pandemic, okay? And just in general, the Trump administration has been hinting towards being open to this kind of rhetoric, to this kind of anti-vax rhetoric, okay? And the whole Maha movement, all of that shit. Now, I just want you to think of an example. Let's say, I know this like hantavirus thing isn't like, whatever. I'm not going to use that as an example, but let's say we do end up in another pandemic where a very reliable way of getting out of the situation is vaccines, okay? But you have the administration, you have the HHS just still going hard in on their anti-vax movement. Now, if you were to want to combat that, how could you do that without at some point invoking some kind of populism?
I don't see how populism is required in that scenario at all. You try to restore faith in institutions. You push for more transparency.
The institutions.
You push for more transparency.
Joe, you're clicking. I don't know what you're clicking, but it's.
I'm seeing it too. I'm working on to figure out where it's coming from.
The call is coming from inside the house. The institution is the one pushing the anti-vaxxing. Now what?
So how does populism fix that at all?
Yeah, I'm asking you. How do you get out of that without populism? No, don't put the question back on me. I'm asking you, how do you get out of that without populism?
But I'm not just putting the question back on you though, because it's the core of the question. Your question infers that obviously you're going to need to use some type of populist rhetoric to get out of that. So I'm asking, like, what populist rhetoric even gets you out of that? And listen, it's a fair enough question. How do we get out of this? I don't know. If I had that answer, I might be very rich right now, because we're in this scenario, like, literally right now. But ideally, you try to restore faith in our institutions.
Yes, but the again, and I'll answer your question. Okay, I'll answer the question I asked. The faith in the institution has been demolished. They're not going to suddenly believe the HHS if they just suddenly flip their switch and say, actually, we should take the vaccines. Please take the vaccines now, guys. They're not going to do that, right? What's going to happen? I'm just saying, this is not even me pushing for it or being a proponent of it in any way whatsoever. What's going to happen is people are going to get mad enough where they protest. Like, let's say there's a midterm coming up or something like that. There will be a politician that arises out of this rhetoric that says, we need to take back control of the country. We need to get scientists back into these institutions. We need to get these stupid fucking ignoramuses out of the HSS and actually push science. That is what's going to happen.
That's not populism. That's not populism.
That is Tally. That is
then obviously we're just going to go back and disagree on the definition, because I don't see how
populism is.
Hold on. No. Oh, I'm sorry. I think you don't know what populism is then, because you're saying we need to get doctors back in here. You are literally saying we need to get the
elites back in positions of power. That's what you're saying.
Exactly. It's like literally the
elites in position of power are killing us. The elites in position of power are currently killing us.
The problem is we don't have it. Hold on, stop, all of you. The problem. Hold on, stop. The problem right now is that the elites are not in power. The elites have been kicked out of power, and now we have the populists in charge of these institutions.
You could say the experts.
I'm not even
unable to properly run these institutions.
Please don't flip to chapter 6. Please don't flip to chapter 6. We aren't even past chapter 1. Please don't flip to chapter 6.
You're saying flip to chapter 6.
I'm asking you.
There's a contradiction.
You're talking about the government.
Hold on. Let me try to engage.
How do you get? Okay. How do you get?
Pause for a second. Hold on. Wait. Let me try. The issue that I'm taking with your characterization of this as populism, there's a few, but one, there's a contradiction inherent in what you're saying, because you're saying the way to win it back is to corral some type of pop. Hold on. Just take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. You're saying I'm literally trying to repeat it back to you, so I don't know how you would even know if I'm listening or not. You're saying that the solution would be a populist movement by the people, by a charismatic politician who's saying these elites currently in power, the Trump elites, are killing us and are making us sicker and dumber, and so we need to restore faith in these institutions and put doctors and trustworthy people back in charge of these institutions. First of all, again, this is literally a counter-populist messaging, because it's talking about restoring elites and experts into the field. But that's number one. But number two, you're presupposing that you're going to be able to redirect that populist energy. The populist energy is the anti-vax energy. It's not the people saying, "Oh, we wish we could bring the vaccines back." You would need to find a way to create that type of energy to counter the actual populist energy which led us here in the first place.
Tali. So again,
why do you presuppose that there's the populist?
Listen. Okay, now listen, because it is abundantly clear that you have missed a very crucial part of what I am saying. I am not a proponent of this. I am saying it will.
That doesn't matter.
Happen.
I'm not accusing you of being a proponent of it
then
or not.
Why you just literally?
I'm saying there's a contradiction inherent in what you're saying will happen, whether you want it to or not.
No. You can't. If you can't engage in the hypothetical, it's okay. What I'm trying to say is that this is an example of this. Yes, it is absolutely an example of something that is going to happen. Somebody's going to come up and say, these people are killing us. These people with their policies, and they're pushing them on us. We are dying because of this. Wick, please. Please tell me you
Wait,
can see this happening. Please tell me you
can I give a closing?
Please,
I
I'm
gotta go as well.
till the last,
Okay, Gibbs has to
the
go.
last brain cell in you.
I'll let you ask me again, but I'll let Gibbs give his outro. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much for having me. This has been, I don't know about the best conversation I've ever had, but it's been an interesting conversation. Yes, I'm sitting here listening to all these things saying, and like, I'm glad that I get invited to these some mainly left-leaning panels because it's very interesting to see y'all's minds. Like, I feel like y'all are in a state of like denial about what's happening, right? Like, I'll bring up something, and it's like we live in two different worlds. Like I said, the fraud stuff, like if you don't believe there's some sort of fraud happening nationwide, okay, I don't know what to tell you. Everybody can see it. There's a reason why people feel disenfranchised with this shit. The average person's not as dumb as like the chronically online want to think they are. And I'm sitting here on these panels. I love coming here because I'm now looking forward to the midterms more than ever. Wick is over here giving grand predictions about the Republicans never getting back in power, while Polly Market saying the Republicans now. MAGA. Okay, well, regardless, they're saying that hey, the prediction markets are now reporting Republicans are favored to hold one seat at the end of the time, a majority. And this is crazy because before they were getting mollywopped, but now it's good stuff. And I for one am excited to see this new golden America and the links of like logic backflips that the leftists can continue to go. So thanks once again for having me so that I can experience these in real time, Wick. And as always, and if you like what I have to say or hate it, Admiral Gibbs everywhere. Thank you so much, guys.
Check them out, gang. Thanks for being here. $20.
Till next time, y'all be good.
No fucking way.
I love you.
Get some greens in you, buddy.
I eat greens every day. I love the spinach. It's good. Like Popeye.
Maybe I'll have an ice bean.
All right. All right, boys. This has been fun. We're going to raid out to somebody. Let's raise Saint since he's raided us a bunch lately. Everybody go say something to Saint because he's been raiding a lot. And we'll raid him. Thanks for being on. I wouldn't stream longer tonight, but I feel sick. We're going to be going, the allergies are killing me. Thursday, we're going to be Big Sunday. Oh my God. At 7. We're going to be doing a big reveal stream for a bunch of stuff, big announcements. And Saturday, we're going to be doing a big debate about capitalism versus socialism. Yeah, I hope so. I'm like, that like feeling you get from like taking too many antihistamines and then like their nose being stuff. Oh, that's how I feel now. It's awful. I feel like antsy, but not, but like nauseous, but not. I don't know, man. It's tough titties. But yeah, I might get on some droid later. But y'all be good. Thank you so much. As always, I'll be back later this week. Tell everybody about the Thursday and Saturday shows.